Stand up, New York Giant fans. Baddog, we're back. I think it's 12 days from the draft, but excited to have you back. Excited to be talking New York Giants football. How was Disney World?
Fantastic. That's why we were not live last week, because I had to go off the grid for a week. It was freaking awesome, man. I had more fun this time than any other time. Real quick story. My kid, he's 7, so we went down for his birthday, my wife's birthday. Their birthdays are a couple of days and then another. I hate roller coasters. I'm scared of roller coasters. Don't like heights. And my kid loves them. And he's like, I want to go on Guardians of the Galaxy. So I look at it on YouTube. I'm like, it doesn't really look that bad, but it's dark, so you really can't see nothing.
Right.
So I get on the thing, and immediately you kind of go up to where you go, and it says, let's go back. And you're flying immediately. And then you whip around, and I'm the first 5 seconds, I'm like, what did I get on? Like, I'm scared. I'm like, what am I on? 15 seconds into the ride, dude, I loved it. I was like, whoa! Yeah. I'm like, I can't wait to go back on the damn thing when I go next year. Yeah.
It
was awesome. Great ride.
I haven't been there in at least like 4 or 5 years, but that's one of the rides that was not there last time I went. So that's definitely one I want to check out. But glad to hear you had a good time. Let's say hello to some of our regulars. Luke, what's going on? John, what's going on? Scott Young, Papa Goose, Alan Clark, Lewis Brand. Of course, we're going to talk about all the rumors, anything that you guys want to talk about leading up into the draft. We're 12 days away. I'm just ready for the draft to be here. I think the Giants have done a tremendous job this period in terms of not giving anything away.
Nothing.
Throwing out a lot of feelers. You've heard every beat reporter report a different quarterback they may be interested in. You've heard different reporters say that they're not even interested in a quarterback. So it's been a mystery. And, I think a lot of it's going to depend on who falls to us at 6. And I'm sure Shane has several plans, but we'll talk about it throughout the show. Jax, man, thank you for remembering. He says, how about those Knicks? And sorry for your Mets, Chris. I mean, the Mets started off really bad. At least they're hovering close to 500. They didn't do well today, but the pitching's been a pleasant surprise. But, yeah, the Yankees are killing it. So if you're a Yankee.
Yeah. I don't know what just happened to Chris. I'll take over him. And he got a new computer, so maybe a couple of kinks to work out. But yes, the Yankees, man, sweeping a doubleheader from Cleveland, 12-3.
I'm back.
I figured something, just a little quirks in the new computer.
Yeah, but no, you got to be excited, Bad Dog, as a Yankee fan. The start that you guys are. I mean, you knew you would get off to a good start, but you guys.
I honestly didn't. Without Garrett Cole, I wasn't really sure, but I do. I love the addition of Soto, obviously, but I kept saying Verdugo, man. Verdugo is just a ball player. Like, we need a lefty bat. He's just a ball player. He's just a solid ball player, kind of in the middle lineup. Soto has been everything as he's advertised, and Judge hasn't even played well. Judge hit a little bit today, but I'm like, man, Glaber hasn't gotten going. Judge hasn't gotten going. We're 12-3. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the start, but I don't get too worked up over 15 games. You can't win the division, April. Can lose it. But I do feel like this is a really good team. They started 50-17 in 2022, but I didn't think that team was great. And then after that start, they were 500 the rest of the year. I think this team's better than that team. When they get Garrett Cole back, they could be even better. But that's something Chris and I will talk about over the summer.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to in about a month or so talking some baseball. But yeah, Yankees off to a great start. Mets not so much, but they did start like 0-4, so at least they're starting to get closer to that 500 mark. But they got beat up by the Royals today. But we're here to talk about football. We're here to talk about the New York Giants. We're here to field all your questions. But just excited to be back. Excited to be talking Giants football. And Bad Dog, like, where's your head at right now? 12 days before the draft, in your gut right now, what does it tell you? What are we doing with this pick at 6?
Wide receiver.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're staying put, and we're going wide receiver. Which one? I don't know. I've seen a few mock drafts that I really love where Minnesota trades up to 4 to get J.J. McCarthy. And I think you mentioned this last week, and or not last week, a couple weeks ago, last show. And the Chargers take Joe Alt because that's what Jim Harbaugh does. And we get Marvin Harrison. And, it's like the Josh Allen thing. Like, I never thought Josh Allen was going to fall to us that one year. We ended up taking Daniel Jones, which is why you and I got so mad. But if that happens, as much as I love Odunze and Neighbors, Man, the Giants, if Marvin Harrison Jr. ever fell into their lap, I'd be elated. That's for sure. But I think they're getting one of those 3 wide receivers. I do. I think that's where they're going.
I agree with you. I won't be shocked, obviously, if they go quarterback on draft night. The Giants have done a lot of research on all these guys. They brought in McCarthy, all of them, for top 30 visits. So we'll see. But in the end, I think the Giants are going to stand pat, and I think they're going to get a guy that they probably shouldn't get. Because Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, those guys shouldn't be going 6th overall. But because a lot of teams, I think, are going to move up and get a quarterback, because I certainly think 4 quarterbacks are going in the first 5 picks. Whether that be Minnesota, whether that be Denver, I think somebody's moving up to get McCarthy or to get Drake Maye or whoever that 4th quarterback is. But I'm with you. I would not be upset if we traded up for a quarterback. I'm a big fan of Drake Maye. I like Drake Maye a lot. But I don't think Drake May's getting past New England. You know, you heard all these rumors like 2 months ago. Oh, maybe the Bears, maybe the Bears will trade out and they won't take Caleb Williams. That turned out to be nonsense. I feel the same way with the New England Patriots. Maybe New England doesn't want to tilt their hand because if they get blown away by an insane offer, but to me, it just shapes up to it's going to be Caleb, it's going to be Daniels, and it's going to be Drake Maye. I think that's going to be the exact first 3 picks. And then I'm looking at either Minnesota moving up to 4 or 5. That's what I think is going to happen. And then we're going to be left with either Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, or, of course, Marvin Harrison. And as a Giants fan, I know a lot of people are quarterback no matter what people. That's not me. I don't want them to force a quarterback pick. But I don't know how you could really argue if you end up with either Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors with the 6th overall pick in this year's draft, or Rome Odunze, who I know you're a big fan of. Like, all those guys are legitimate number 1 wide receivers.
I like Rome Odunze a lot. I forgot who it was. I don't think it was anybody like, but he had he's got a podcast. I forget what it was, but it was on NJ.com, and you can't like read the article. You need to subscribe to NJ.com. But at the beginning of it was saying that the guy, and I wanted to read it because, I'm not I don't want to say I'm not a fan of McCarthy. I'm not a fan of taking McCarthy at 6. I do not want McCarthy in 6 or early. I just don't. Okay. Because I have my reservations about him. And as much as I love Michael Penix, I don't want him at 6 either for a different reason, for different worries. But the guy said, and I don't even do this to McCarthy, but the guy said the Giants would be foolish to take McCarthy because his ceiling is Daniel Jones. This is what the guy said. Now, I'm not going to diminish McCarthy that much. I don't know what McCarthy will be in the NFL, which is why I'm afraid.
I think I read that article. I think he also badmouthed Drake Maye in that article too, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe he did. I couldn't read the whole article, but I'm like, I made it known. I'm more concerned about the fact that he didn't have to do anything in Michigan. Michigan's defense was elite. Their offensive line was elite. He had 4 total touchdowns in the last 7 games. He was terrible against Washington in the championship game, and it didn't matter. So can he be really good in the NFL? Maybe, but maybe he can't. I mean, you could say that with anybody. But my concern is you're going from an elite team, elite talent around you, the best talent in college, to what would be some of the worst talent on the Giants, because this is a team that's picking 6th overall for a reason. Yeah. And he wasn't asked to do that in Michigan. So what's to say you ask him to do it and he can do it? Those are my hangups with him. Penix, my hangups are his injury history. But the man ran a 4.46. Now, I thought it was funny because so many people were like, yeah, he can't run. He's immobile. He's a statue. And he ran a 4.46. And I said, see, tell me you never watched Michael Penix without telling me you never watched Michael Penix. Because just because a guy doesn't scramble don't mean he can. Or that doesn't mean he can't move. But I like the fact that Penix is a pocket passer. But again, in the lefty, obviously it worries me too. So I don't want either one of them at 6. Yeah. I just don't.
Yeah, for me, for the Giants to trade up, because that's what they would have to do, like to ensure they get one of these quarterbacks. They can't just stay at 6. They're gonna have to trade up. Like you got to believe this guy could be a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the league. And I like McCarthy. I've liked McCarthy the entire time. I even said that I think months ago that I thought he could be a top 5 pick because I know the teams reach for quarterbacks, but not for the Giants. Not at 6th overall or trading up to 4 for the Giants. You're giving up draft assets. We had the worst offensive line in football last year. We don't have a number 1 wide receiver. Not in my opinion. Now, if they do it, I'm going to support it. I'm going to hope that the kid works out. But for me, if you're asking my preference going into the draft, unless a guy like Drake May falls out of the top 3 and you have the ability to move up, who I do think has that upper echelon ceiling.
Yes.
I want the Giants to stand pat. I want them to get the best player available. And for me, that's one of those 3 wide receivers. And we'll find out. But that's where I think they're headed. But crazier things have happened, right? We didn't think they were going to take Daniel Jones. So we'll see.
I've seen some mock drafts that have Bo Nix going 12 to Denver, Michael Penix going 13 to the Raiders. Like, you really never know on draft night, which is why you guys always got to tune in to Chris and I, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how we're going to react. Obviously, the Giants last year, it wasn't as big of a reaction. And we still love the pick. We love Deonte Banks. When you're picking 24th, it's not as major as picking 6th, because when you're picking this early, this guy has to come in and immediately be a star. This is what you have to, if you're going to be a good GM, you have to hit these picks. You can't miss them. And it happens a lot. I mean, it's not for lack of film study or scouting or anything. Sometimes guys just don't work. A lot of it has to do with coaching. It has to depend on the system. There's a lot of intangibles that go along with succeeding in the NFL. Some guys you wouldn't think they would. I mean, look at Tom Brady. I mean, who the hell had Tom Brady being the greatest quarterback of all time? Pat Mahomes didn't go top 5. Nobody was like, oh, you got to get Pat Mahomes. He's going to be the greatest quarterback of this, generation. Nobody was knocking down, walls to get him in the top 5. Nobody, so it happens. And then other guys were, picked very early and they failed. So it's always a crapshoot. It's not
an exact science. There's not an exact science when it comes to the quarterback position or any position, but specifically that one. But Moo, thank you so much, man. He said, glad to see Chris and Baddog back. Will Patty be on? I'm not sure. I think she mentioned she might pop in for a little bit if I recall.
Yeah, she could, yes.
Yeah, she could, but I know she's obviously going to be busy that night. But Moo, man, good to see you, man.
Yeah, we'll leave the link for her and
for sure. Yeah.
Twitter to say if you can come by. We'll definitely welcome Patty into the.
By the way, we'll say it now. We got a big guest coming on the show on Monday.
We do have a big guest coming on the show.
Big guest. Excited. Justin Pugh.
Yeah, he's coming right off the couch, Chris.
Yeah, right off the couch. He followed both me and Baddog. We both reached out to him. And, Justin Pugh's going to come on with us on Monday. At least that's the plans as of now.
Yes.
So, yeah, we'll ask him some of the hard questions. We'll ask him, give us some insight in that locker room, the offensive line, the quarterback, everything else. So, should be a lot of fun. David says, excited to watch the draft with you guys. Go G-Man. Excited to watch the draft with all you guys as well, man. Thanks for being here, buddy. And Albert says, I don't listen to all the talking heads a month before the draft. They're just trying to create garbage content. Well, I think it's called draft exhaustion, right, Baddog? Like, I feel like I just feel like I think that's kind of happened to Marvin Harrison, because like Marvin Harrison has been talked about for like 2 years. And I feel like people for the last 4 or 5 months have just been looking for anything to knock this guy. To me, he is like the perfect wide receiver prospect. You see it happen all the time every year. They did the same thing with CJ Stroud last year when they talked about his tests and everything else. People have nothing to talk about now because it's 2-3 weeks before the draft. There's not much news to come out. So people are just throwing out various scenarios because they're bored until the draft.
Exactly. Yeah. Mock draft 17.4 section B. I mean, how many mock drafts can you do?
Yeah. For me, I think the best player in this draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams is 2. But I would take Caleb 1. But if we're just talking overall player, that's how good of a talent that I think that guy is.
Yeah,
if he ever fell to the Giants, Baddog, I'd be going bananas on draft.
Yeah, I'd be absolutely thrilled. I mean, I don't, because again, you don't expect it. Like, as angry as we were on when they drafted Daniel Jones, had they drafted Josh Allen, it would have been the complete opposite reaction, because we both wanted Josh Allen. And for those of you who don't know, the pass rusher, not the quarterback, but we both wanted him. Never thought he could fall past the Raiders at 4. They took Clelin Ferrell, and we knew Devin White was going to Tampa. So like, oh my God, Josh Allen's there. And that's why my whole thing is, please take Josh Allen. Please take Josh Allen. Please take Josh Allen. Daniel Jones. Well, then the rest is history. And,
it wasn't just We were
yeah, it wasn't just us. We just seemed to get the
around.
most play out of that, I guess. But
That
that's
was-
why everybody's always like, "Bad dog, Chris. What player will give you another Daniel Jones reaction?" Always. If they take Bo Nix at 6, you'll get a Daniel Jones reaction.
I was gonna say who's the player, and yeah, I think that would be the player. That would be the player for me. I don't think they'll do that, but
I don't think they will either.
Yeah, would Brock Bowers give you that reaction? Would you do that?
I wouldn't react like that. I wouldn't be happy, but I wouldn't blow a gasket. Like if they took Bo Nix, I'd be pissed off.
Yeah,
he did that.
Yeah,
but I will not be happy with Brock Bowers. Not that Brock Bowers isn't an awesome prospect, but the tight end is. We have way more needs than a tight end. We have more important needs than that right now.
Yeah. What about a trade down possibility? Are you open to that?
I guess it depends on who's on the board and what the offer is. Yeah. I really don't want to trade down because if you're staying at 6, you're getting one of the best 3 wide receivers in this draft class. If you go down to 10, what are you getting there? If they traded down to 10 and got Brock Bowers, I'd be okay with that. If they traded down to 10 and got Brock Bowers and they got another pick, I'd rather a future first rounder though. Like we talked about the trading with Minnesota and getting what are they? What are their picks? 13 and 23. I forgot where Minnesota's picking. They have 23. I forgot where they were though.
Minnesota's picking 11 and 23.
11 and 23. So if we got that, I'd rather have but if the Giants got 11 and 23 and somehow got Brock Bowers and Micah Penix, I'd be happy with that too. We've talked about this before. You want a future first because then you can move up and get a quarterback if you need to.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, man. I've seen people on Twitter say that they'd entertain the 11 and 23. For me at this point, first off, I don't even think that they're going to be willing to give up that at this point, unless only 3 quarterbacks go in the first 5 picks, I should say. Then maybe that becomes a possibility. But if 4 quarterbacks go in the first 5 picks, I don't even think a team's going to be looking to give away draft capital like that. And the only way I'm trading down, I have to get a future first round pick. I'm not trading down otherwise because you're passing up Marvin Harrison Jr. potentially, a Malik Neighbors. You're not going to get those guys at 10 or 11. And, we saw what happened last time around and we got a future first round pick and the value was great on draft night. We were happy with the value. That ended up being the 7th overall pick or the 5th overall pick or whatever it was from the Chicago Bears in the following draft, along with the 22nd pick or whatever it was. And I think we got a 3rd round pick out of that as well. But at the end of the day, you passed up on Micah Parsons. And, if you have the ability to take an elite player, I don't think you get cute there, man. I think you stay there, and I think you snag them, unless you're absolutely blown away. And you could get a future first, and you're not falling that far back. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't foresee a trade down scenario for us in this draft. I don't think we're trading up, and I don't think we're trading down.
I don't either.
Quarterback in the 2nd round, I think is a possibility. I think it's a possibility at 6 too. I don't want to say it's not, but I think it's a possibility. Do you foresee a scenario, and I know this would be the dream for you, Michael Penix slips and goes all the way to 47? And I know, like, when we look at these mock drafts now, we say no way because we see the Raiders taking them, we see the Broncos taking them. But all it really takes, and you see it every year in the draft with that position,
for them to pass on him,
is that one team to pass on him. And then all of a sudden, all these other teams that don't need a quarterback, he could trickle down into the very late 1st to early 2nd round area where if you're the Giants and you do like him, well, maybe you could move up to 37, 38 and make sure you get your quarterback. Could you see that being a scenario? Whether it be, I know you don't like Nix, but we don't know who the Giants like. Whether it be a Bo Nix, whether it be a Michael Penix, do you see that being a possibility on draft night?
Absolutely. I mean, if they're there,
yeah,
absolutely. And listen, I might cream myself if they got Michael Penix in the 2nd round, okay? Because I'm a big Michael Penix fan. I have been for years, but you've mentioned this before. There's no financial burden when you take a quarterback that late. You can get away from the guy. He could be a backup. If you get a backup in the 2nd round, who cares? I mean, look at it. You just got to look at like the Eagles, per se, right? They took Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round after they just gave Carson Wentz a massive contract. And we see what Jalen Hurts ended up being, right? Took him to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they let go of Carson Wentz. So obviously I'd be extremely happy with that. If they ended up with Bo Nix there, it wouldn't hurt my feelings either for the same reason. I prefer I think Michael Penix is way better than Bo Nix.
Yeah.
But if Bo Nix fell to 47,
that's fine.
I'd kind of be happy with that. I'd be like, okay, you can work with that guy. If you can make him into something with a 47th overall pick and you got your quarterback and he turns into something awesome. And if he doesn't, you move on.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you got $1 million backup for the next 4 years.
Right.
I mean, so, obviously you will look back and say, oh, we should have taken this guy there. But it's a big difference taking a guy at 47 as opposed to 6, specifically at that position. So, yeah, I'm open to it there. I still don't think we're going quarterback there either, though. Like, if I was doing a mock draft right now, and we'll do a mock draft, I'm sure, the week of the draft. But if I was doing a mock draft right now, I think I think they're taking a quarterback at some point, probably. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's going to be in the first 3 rounds. I really don't. I think they're going to go BPA the first 3 rounds. Now, we can't predict what's going to happen with Penix or Nix or whatever, but I think those guys go before we pick again at 47. I don't think we're going quarterback early.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to 47. But I mean, if either one of them did, that probably is the BPA at 47.
Yeah.
I would imagine. And listen, if they did get out of the first round, there's no telling that a team like the Raiders might not trade up, or Denver might not trade their to get up into the back end of the first round or the very early second round. Well, normally, Chris, we talk about this. If they really like Penix or they like Nix, they will trade back into the first round so that they can offer him a 5th-year option. That's usually what you do. You don't want to take a guy at 33 when you can get him at 31 because you're going to have that extra year. And that's huge on a rookie deal to be able to give a guy a 5th-year option.
What the Ravens did with Lamar
Jackson. So it's smart in that aspect. But yeah, I'm with you. I think they go BPA all around. We've talked about Chris Jenkins a lot. And again, this mock draft, but Chris Jenkins, every time I did a mock, he fell to the Giants in the 3rd round. I'm like, if the Giants got him at 70, I'd be really happy with that. Braylon Trice is another guy I really like. I like the Washington guys, man. I watched a lot of Washington football. I just like Odunze. I like Penix, obviously. I like Trice. I like Dylan Johnson later in the draft, the running back. So but there's a lot of guys I like. I like Ladd McConkey. I think he's very underrated as well. I think Ladd McConkey could go first round. It's 7. Another guy that, listen, maybe the Giants will go quarterback first 2 rounds, but if Spencer Rattler's there at 70,
yeah,
maybe you take a shot at Spencer Rattler at 70. I think Spencer Rattler is going to go earlier than people think he's going to go. I do.
So you think he goes above Bo Nix?
No, I don't think he'll go before Bo Nix. But I'm saying, like, I think he could be a day 2 guy, where a lot of people have him as a day 3 guy.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I don't think he'll go ahead of those.
One player the Giants brought in that a lot of people have been bringing up is Benson, the running back out of Florida State. He would be interesting. Obviously, we lose Saquon Barkley. Wouldn't be against that if they wanted to go running back, whether it be at 47 or whether it be at 70. Me, I want to build the trenches, but wouldn't be against that. That's a guy they brought in who's one of the better running backs in this class. Wouldn't stun me if you went there, because it's much like we talked about with the backup quarterback. It's not much financial commitment for a guy that could have an impact on your offense. You get a playmaker there. So that's a possibility too. There's so many things they could do with that 47th pick. It's impossible to really speculate on until after the conclusion of the first round. Omega says, none of these quarterbacks move the needle enough for me to move up or draft at 6. Wide receiver is best. I would love for the Giants to draft Joe Milton later in the draft and have Dable teach him until he is ready. I wouldn't be against that. I mean, if you could get a Joe Milton in like the 5th round, I call him the Happy Gilmore of this year's class because he could drive the hell out of the golf ball, but he can't really do much else. Same thing there with Milton. He could throw a deep ball, not good mechanics, not good with the short game, but hey, maybe coaching over the next 2 or 3 years. I'm not against that at all. I don't think I'd want to spend a day 2 pick on him, but if you could get Joe Milton in the day 3, I should say, I wouldn't be against that, getting a quarterback like that there. Not at all.
Right, that's what I'm saying with Spencer Rattler. If you can get him in day 3, he's not going to get to day 3, I don't think. But if he did, I mean, why not? You really have nothing to lose at that point. You really don't. I mean, Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick. I mean, You just never know. You never know where you're going to find a quarterback. Russell Wilson was a 3rd-round pick. Guys come out, later in the draft and they become something. It's not, it's not like normal for that to happen. There's a kind of anomalies. You don't, because if a guy is really good, he's not going to last the 3rd or 4th round. But again, coaching, system, the ability to develop players and the talent surrounding them have a lot to do with their success, and their ability to adjust to the NFL has a lot to do with it as well. And then, of course, they got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So, our quarterback can't, unfortunately.
Michael says, wasn't Caleb a backup to Rattler? He was, but in the sense that he was like a freshman. So that's not uncommon in college football. And Baddog would know that as an Oklahoma fan.
Yeah. So Rattler that year was actually a Heisman favorite. And Rattler had a great year the year before. Yeah. He was a Heisman favorite going to that year. Caleb was a true freshman, 18 years old. So, yeah, he wasn't going to take the starting job from from Rattler. Rattler got off to a bad start. He was turning the ball over a lot. And against Texas, they were getting killed. And that's their biggest rival. And Caleb came in, brought them back and won, and that was it. Caleb had the job. And I've told this story before, for those who don't know. Caleb Williams is also extremely smart. And I'll never forget this. Against Kansas, where Oklahoma should not have been struggling against Kansas, Oklahoma was up by like 3 points or 4 points in the 4th quarter, like 2 minutes ago. And they went for it on 4th and 2 from midfield. And they handed the ball off. And the running back did not get the first down. He was stopped. And Caleb Williams went up and grabbed the ball away from the running back because he knew he was stopped. So Caleb ripped the ball out of his teammate's hand and went forward 3 yards for the first down. And I said, what a smart football play that was as a true freshman at 18 years old. And his talent's overwhelming. I mean, anybody that actually watched Caleb Williams play, there's no way.
People that are knocking Caleb Williams they knock him for stupid things like the way he dresses. You can't knock him.
Oh, he paints his fingernails. I don't give a damn if he paints his face.
The guy.
Right. Oh, there goes Chris again. He'll be back in a second. But yeah, Caleb Williams is a talent. He's got all the tools. He's got all the skills. Does that mean he'll succeed? No.
I don't know what's going on tonight. I think it's the new computer.
Could be the ghosts. Darnold ghost.
I'm trying to go to the chat to respond to somebody, and it's knocking me off. So apologize for that. I got a new laptop. Big Moose says, looks like we're picking up a lot of players on 1-year deals for special teams. What do you guys think are the new kickoff rules that are causing this? I mean, we did the same thing last year, Big Moo, in terms of 1-year deals. We brought in a ton of guys
placeholders
on 1-year deals. So no, I think that when you no, not at all. I think you do that every year in the NFL. There's always a lot of turnover on the roster, and the majority of your signings are going to be short-term variety. You're only going to bring in 1 or 2 guys on a large contract, like the Brian Burns type contract. So no, I mean, it will be interesting to see how the new special teams rules impact the NFL this year, and maybe the Giants will be able to take advantage of that. But no, I don't. No, I think that's kind of common practice in the NFL. You bring in a lot of 1-year deals in free agency. You got to fill out a 53-man roster.
Yep. I see Chris in the chat said Caleb is talented. I just don't think he makes it in the New York market. And that has something to do with it. I don't know. Again, that has a lot to do with the guy you take, the media market, because, yeah, Philadelphia, New York, they're really tough. Like, I know those two in football are very tough. They're tough markets. In baseball, Boston's, I don't know how it is with the Patriots. I don't know if that's like a really tough market. New York is probably the toughest one out there. It is a tough place to play, and they'll either love you or hate you. Those reporters are going to, they're going to go after you, and the fans are going to go after you. They'll criticize because they want to win. And it is how you handle that. Like, we drafted Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers would have never succeeded here with the way
he would have bombed in New York.
He would have never succeeded here. Eli Manning, Eli was the perfect personality for New York.
I say it all the time. Eli was the perfect fit for the New York Giants. People say that Ben was better. I get it. Ben had a better career. I don't think Ben would have been as successful in New York.
No.
You imagine with the rape allegations in New York? Like that's back page stuff on the New York Post. So the same thing with Rivers. I don't think Rivers had the arm strength to play in the Meadowlands. So it was the right fit for the Giants.
Eli, he was.
Yeah.
He was definitely the right fit for us. So that's why they, but again, you can't, Maybe the Giants can't be like, oh, this guy's like Eli, which is why they took Daniel Jones. Let's be honest. He's got Eli's personality. And he's got better legs than Eli could have ever dreamed of having. But he doesn't have Eli's brain. He doesn't have Eli's toughness. I shouldn't say that. Daniel Jones is tough. I shouldn't say he's not tough. He doesn't have his durability is a better word.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he's missed every year except for 2022. He's missed time, an extensive period of time. So
also his play style. He takes a lot of hits.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, this guy looks like Eli. He's Eli's size. He knows Eli. He was trained by Eli's coach. It doesn't make him Eli Manning. So I think the Giants got to go way outside the box here.
Nick Powell says, what's your thoughts on trading up with New England and drafting Drake May and throwing DJ in the trade? One, nobody's trading for Daniel Jones.
Correct.
His contract is, nobody's taking on that contract right now. So no, you're not going to include Daniel Jones in any trade. Secondly, I would love to trade up for Drake May. I love Drake May. And I think Drake May fits exactly what the type of quarterback that Joe Schoen would be looking for. I've said that several times. I don't think it's going to happen because Nick, let me ask you this, because people ask this all the time. If you're the New England Patriots, why would you trade out of that pick? Why would you trade out of that pick?
Especially when they let Mac Jones go.
You're a new head coach. You're trying to build hope for the fan base. You don't have to trade up. You could just stand pat and take Drake May, and you'll be applauded by the fan base. You need a quarterback. Why would you trade out of the pick? And if Drake May ever turns out to be really good, that's a good way to get fired if you're a general manager. So I just don't see it. I've never seen it. I don't think New England's trading out of the pick. And I think in the end, that's where May's going to go, because I think Washington's going to take Daniels because of the fit in that offense. So, I'd be open to it. I just don't think it's happening. I don't think he's available.
I can't see New England trading out of that pick either. I have a hard time seeing them trade out of the pick. Stranger things have happened, but New England doesn't have a quarterback, so
I don't see it. Let's see. DB says Derek Carr was Kirk Cousins was. We could do this all night. Brock Purdy was the Mr. Irrelevant. There's not an exact science to the quarterback position, right? So,
Tony Romo was undrafted.
So there's not an exact science. A lot of it has to do with, is Derek Carr great? He's pretty good, but Kirk Cousins is certainly a very good pick in the fourth round. But there's not an exact science to the quarterback position.
Kirk Cousins' agent was a very good pick. And the ironic thing is, the year Kirk Cousins was drafted, the fourth round, they took RG3 in the first round. So they actually took two quarterbacks that year, and Kirk Cousins ended up being the more successful one because he was the durable one. RG3 looked like an amazing prospect, but Washington ruined him. He had a bad knee, and they freaking brought his ass out there anyway. He ended up tearing his knee. He was never the same. They took RG3 in the first round, Cousins in the fourth. That same year,
Jordan Love, late first round pick. Aaron Rodgers, late first round pick. Drew Brees, early second round pick. We could do this all night. There's plenty of late draft picks, that worked out to be really good quarterbacks. There's no perfect answer. Weirwood says, just woke up here in the UK, 2:30 a.m. Wow. Thank you for being here, man. So could join in, go Big Blue. Still want wide receiver at 6 in the draft in a few weeks' time. I think you're going to get your wish, man. I think the Giants are finally going to go wide receiver. It's the strength of the draft. It's the BPA. And whether Giants fans want to admit it or not, that don't want to take a wide receiver, it's a need. Do we have some talent in that receiving core? Absolutely. I like Wandell. I like Slayton. I like Hyatt. But we don't have that bona fide stud. And it's the best player available. So ultimately, unless a quarterback trickles down or unless the Giants trade up for a quarterback, I think it's pretty obvious. We just don't know which wide receiver it's going to be. But I think it's pretty obvious we're going wide receiver.
I think they have to, because again, why would you take the fourth best quarterback when you could have one of the three best receivers, probably one of the two best receivers? I would imagine the first four picks are going to be quarterbacks. So you're going to have an option to pick, the second best wide receiver in this draft. They need that. They need a guy, people talk about, yeah, Daniel Jones got sacked because the line sucks. Yeah, I agree. But Daniel Jones also processes extremely slow. And if you got a wide receiver that can get open immediately, that may help him out, right? So I've said this a million times, and I'll say this until Daniel Jones is no longer a Giant. Daniel Jones and the Giants are just not a good marriage. He processes slowly. He doesn't read quick enough, and he doesn't anticipate his throws. When you have that with a line that sucks, that's just a recipe for disaster, and that's exactly what we've had.
Yeah.
If Daniel Jones had 0.2 of a second more, 0.3, he'd probably be really good. Daniel Jones, in my opinion, could still be a really good quarterback on a team that he had more time to throw because he just needs time because he just isn't quick enough. Quarterbacks can, help the offensive line by getting rid of the ball quickly.
Yeah.
And if you hold on to it a little bit too long, you're going down. So again, it's just not this combination. It's like oil and water. It just don't go together. I still think Jones, I've said this the whole time. Physically, I think he's got a lot of talent without question. I think his arm strength is better than people give him credit for. I think he is accurate. And I think that he, obviously he could run. I don't know what the ACL is going to do to him. But that in between the years has always been my big question about Daniel Jones. Can he do it mentally? Can he process quick enough? Can he read the defenses? Can he audible at the line of scrimmage? Can he change the blocking scheme? Can he read the mic? Can he do all this stuff? And he hasn't been able to. And we're going into year 6. So
there's no listen. Daniel Jones underperformed severely last year. If the Giants take a quarterback, I don't think anybody could argue against it. And Bill, man, thank you so much, man. Bill's awesome. Always see him on Twitter. Great supporter. I love you, Bill. Thank you for being here, man. But let me ask you this. I was thinking about this the other day. Just talking about as a prospect, because obviously we didn't, if we're being fair and honest, we didn't know a ton about Daniel Jones when the Giants drafted him coming out of
I
Duke.
knew nothing about him.
Yeah. But now knowing the physical skill set that he has, because I think you agree with me, like you said, he has good tools.
He does.
I'm not going to say he has elite tools, but he has good tools.
Good, above average.
Yeah. Where do you think Daniel Jones, if he was a prospect today, he was a 21-year-old kid, and you know the type of quarterback that he is with the tools that he is, where do you think he would rank in this year's quarterback class as a prospect? We don't know what he's done in the NFL. He hasn't had an injury history. Strictly a prospect.
6th.
You think he'd be below?
I think Caleb, Daniels, Maye, McCarthy, Penix.
Yeah.
I would actually put, people are going to kill me for this, but I'd actually put Daniel Jones ahead of Bo Nix.
Yeah.
But I think he'd be 6th. He'd be in the Bo Nix, well, maybe not ahead of Bo. He's there with Bo Nix. You could, I think he's on par with him. You could put Bo Nix ahead of him. You could put Bo Nix behind him, but I think he's there. I think he's better than Rattler. I think he's better than Milton as a prospect, but I think these quarterbacks are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His class was not rich with quarterback talent.
Kyler, that was it.
Yeah, which is why he went as early as he did. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it would. Maybe you could argue just because of the injury history, maybe some teams would have him above Penix. But I certainly think he'd definitely be out of the top 4 for sure. Yeah. I think the earliest he would be on most people's boards is 5th. I agree with that because I think McCarthy's a better prospect and he's most people's 4. So I agree with that. But he's still maybe a first-round pick in this year's class, just as a prospect without knowing.
Yeah, he could definitely be a guy that went at the back end of the first round. Yeah, and I'm trying to think who's picking back there that might need a quarterback. But like I said, just for shits and giggles, say Minnesota kept, or whatever they were picking 11th, but say they were picking 23. Say they had 11 and 23 and they didn't trade out of those picks, and Daniel Jones went 23 to the Vikings. With the way the Vikings are right now, Daniel Jones's career would have been a lot different than it ended up being.
Yeah.
I think that Daniel Jones could be a very good quarterback on Minnesota. And that was always my argument with the Eagle fans was if you put Daniel Jones on the Eagles, you can't tell me Daniel Jones isn't going to do pretty much what Jalen Hurts did. I feel like you got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith. You got a good running game. You have one of the best offensive lines in the league. Dallas Goedert, like Jones would succeed there.
Yeah.
Would he bring him to a Super Bowl? I don't know. Okay. You got to give Hurts credit for that. He brought him to a Super Bowl, but I can't say that, but I definitely think Jones would be way better on Philadelphia than he is here. And I think that Jalen Hurts would be shit here because the same reasons, right? He's throwing to Darius Slayton as his number one, not A.J. Brown. Yeah. And remember, Jalen Hurts' rookie year wasn't good. They went out and they got A.J. Brown. They drafted Devontae Smith, and then he became a decent quarterback. But he still runs the ball more than anything else. I still don't think he's a great passer.
Yeah.
But he's better in the NFL than I thought he'd be. I give him credit for that. I really didn't think he'd be a good NFL quarterback. He's okay.
Yeah, and I agree. Well, we'll talk about Penix, but the only reason why I said that Jones may be above Penix as a prospect is not because of talent. I definitely think Penix has better physical ability than Daniel Jones. It's the injuries. And injuries scare people off, especially at that position. But would you? And you're like the biggest Penix fan in the world. You've loved Penix for years.
Yeah.
I would not say he has the best arm in this draft. Now, I think he's got a great arm, and I think he throws a beautiful deep ball, and I think he throws a great spiral. I think Drake Maye has a stronger arm, and I think Caleb Williams has a stronger arm. But I think Penix throws the prettiest deep ball, and I think he's got a well above average arm. I think he's got
I think that's
three arm in this class. I think he's got a top three arm.
He throws the best deep ball in this class.
He throws the prettiest.
You've mentioned this too. His ability to whip the ball from sideline to sideline is unrivaled.
Yeah.
The zip that thing carries. It's hard to say because he kind of three quarters the ball. And it's just so effortless. You know what I mean? Like it's just a flick of the wrist and the thing goes 60 yards. I mean, you saw everybody, you know, it's funny. Everybody will talk about somebody's pro day and about how great his pro day is if they like him. And then, you know, on Twitter, I think I mentioned Michael Penix's pro day, and they're like, "Oh, it's a pro day. There's nobody guarding him." What do you think pro day is, man? I mean, that's what pro day is. There's nobody guarding anybody. There's no pressure or anything. Everything's controlled. I don't care if you're at the combine. I don't care if you're at your pro day. I don't care where you are. That is what it is. So it's fun to watch it, but yeah, there's a big difference between running a 4.46 in underwear and running a 4.46 fully padded. There's game speed and there's, you know, pro day speed. So, but I love Penix. I think Penix is the second most talented quarterback in this draft behind Caleb Williams. That is really my assessment as far as like actual tools go. Throwing as a passer. I think he's got a lot of experience, and I love when people are like, "Oh, he's old." He's 23. He's not Brandon Weeden. He's not 28.
What I find interesting about the old argument, and I get it, like for me, I'm with you. Like that to me is not a deterrent for me in terms of his age. I think where I get a little skeptical of it is, well, this guy's been playing in college for 6 years. Like he has so much experience going up against 19-year-olds. But in terms of the age factor coming into the pros at 24, quarterbacks play till 40 now. But what I find so ironic and funny, so many people use that against Penix. They don't mention Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is the same age.
Yep.
Jaden Daniels is the same age, and he's only had one great year at the collegiate level. So I'm not trying to knock Jaden Daniels.
Kind of reminds me of another LSU quarterback that was 24 when he got drafted. Do you remember who that was?
Mr. Joe Burrow.
Mr. Joe Burrow. Would Giants fans have been upset if they took Joe Burrow?
Yeah, no, obviously not.
Penix, the reason Penix played extra is because he had the injury problems. Yeah. I think that if he stayed completely healthy, he would have come out a little bit earlier. I mean, Indiana was actually a good team with him there. And as soon as he was out, that was the end of Indiana. Indiana was never ranked. Indiana was ranked in the top 10 at one point with him. I think they were 7th in the country because of Michael Penix. I'm just a big Penix fan. What can I say? What do they call it? Fanboy. I'm a fanboy. I like Michael Penix. I like Michael Penix. Not only do I like his ability to throw the football, I like his gamesmanship. He's a competitor. Like you see him on the sideline, getting into his guy's face, pumping him up. He's a leader. You know what I mean? And the fact that we talked about the Washington guys, Odunze staying after to do the cone drill, or to get it right, or Penix staying on the line to make that extra throw because he threw a bad one.
Yeah,
they must be really well coached at Washington. So, and people are like, oh, Washington's not good. Man, Washington went through a very tough Pac-12. They beat Oregon twice. They made it to the national championship game.
Washington's
and
good.
They were in that game. Washington beat a lot of good teams. They beat Washington State. Like, they beat a lot of top 25 teams. They were not.
Washington had the best offensive line in the country.
Yeah, they were pretty damn good.
They were good. It's just that they ran into the best defensive line in the country in the national
Yes.
game.
Well, that and the fact they couldn't stop Michigan's run at the beginning. I mean, Michigan, like I said, they turned the hand the ball off 3 times. It was like 3 60-yard runs for touchdowns.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. But then they played them to a stalemate. And listen, Penix was off that night. Penix didn't play well. He missed Odunze. And I remember sitting there going, God, that's not like him. So maybe nerves got there. Who knows? Yeah. They were just a little off. He was a little off. But I saw that kind of in the middle of the season that was happening to too. He was sailing some throws. Oh, he throws one bad back. Oh, he's not the guy. I mean, every one of these quarterbacks sails a throw. Nobody's perfect.
Giants takes, appreciate you for being here. It's just so I'm going to pull up Jackson Super Chat in a second. I don't know how you could say Joe Burrow's overrated. Yeah. Joe Burrow's damn good. I mean, I don't know where people have him rated, but yeah, I mean, just look what happened to the Bengals this year when he got hurt. So to me, Joe Burrow is one of the top, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks in the league.
He's an elite quarterback without question.
You want to say Herbert? I think it's fair to say that some people have put the cart before the horse when it comes to Herbert in terms of anointing him as a top 4 quarterback.
Let's see what Herbert does with a real coach.
But here's what I'll say about Justin Herbert. The tools are there, and now he's got Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh is going to build that team right. And you've seen what he's done for quarterbacks in the past. I think the Chargers are going to be really good. Maybe not this year because they're kind of in a transition phase, but they're going to be really good really fast.
Yeah, I don't know how Joe Burrow made the Super Bowl the second year, right? I don't think Joe Burrow's overrated. I think Joe Burrow is an incredly
you want to bring up injuries. That's fair. I see people in the chat bringing up the availability.
He's had them.
That's fair. That's a red flag. But when he's on the field, he's one of the top.
Yeah, he's one of the best, without question.
Yeah. Jackson says, I'm trying to speak it into existence. Odunze. He's my favorite. Is he your favorite? You got Harrison 1, right?
I have Harrison 1, but I love Odunze. Yeah. I don't think the Giants are getting Harrison. Odunze is my guy over Neighbors, though. Yes, I am a big Rome Odunze fan. Big fan of Odunze. I just like his size, man. I like having that guy at 6'3". I like his NFL. Again, you take comps with a grain of salt, but when your comparison going into the NFL is Larry Fitzgerald and Devontae Adams, I'll take that guy. Yeah. I just love his physicality, his yards after the catch. Is he a burner? No. I mean, he ran a 4.5. It's not like he's slow, but he don't run a 4. He's not Xavier Worthy, okay? But 4.5 isn't horrible. I'd rather have a guy that can make catches on 3rd and 11 or make those catches in the corner of the end zone, make those, tough catches in traffic as opposed to a guy that just runs straight down the field. We have that in Jalen Hyatt. We don't need another 4-3 guy. I just like what Odunze brings. I think Jalen Hyatt can be really good. I still love the Jalen Hyatt pick. Love him. You don't win the Biletnikoff Award for no reason. Yeah. And I think if you had a guy where you got an Odunze who is completely opposite of a Jalen Hyatt and completely opposite of a Wan'Dale Robinson, I think it can make everybody better. And I'm not saying I'm not saying Malik Neighbors can't do that either. Obviously, he can.
Yeah. I actually think Odunze ran. I think he ran a better than a 4.5, if I'm not mistaken. I remember expecting he was going to run about a 4.5. I think he ran like
maybe it's a 4.45. Yeah, maybe it was something like that.
4.4, mid 4.4s. Yeah, I think it was.
Could be.
Odunze's really good. Yeah. I still have Neighbors above him, but I wouldn't be upset if they take Odunze. I think Odunze.
Yeah, I love
these guys could be top 5 to 10.
My dream, I've been saying it. I want to speak, Jackson, I'm going to speak this into existence. Odunze Penix. Pair them up with the Giants. Pair them up.
Yeah. And Craig, I agree with you on that, Craig. I don't know if Bad Dog said that, but he says that Neighbors is no Hyatt just because you're fast. Neighbors is much more than Hyatt for me. To me, he's a complete
I didn't say that. I must
I
have
don't
talked
think
about
you said that. Dude, he's strong, man. Like you look at Hyatt. Hyatt is kind of a one-trick pony because he's slender, he's fast. He kind of ran a limited route tree.
He's Deshaun Jackson. That's what he can be. That's his ceiling to me. If he was close to Deshaun Jackson, I'd be very happy with that.
But Neighbors is the type of guy. He's got Odell Beckham big playability. He's the type of guy that you could throw him a 5-yard slant over the middle. He can make 2 guys miss, and he can take it 80 yards. That's the type of wide receiver he is. And he's a polished route runner. Like, he's the complete package. Like, Malik Neighbors, to me, I'd be stunned if he's not a top 10 wide receiver in the league. Like, he looks that good to me. Like, I think he's going to be elite. I would love
but Craig's right. Just because you're fast doesn't make you a wide receiver. Just look at John Ross, right? John Ross ran a 4.22. That was the record that Worthy broke. And he went 9th overall because he ran fast. And the Raiders did this crap for years, going all the way back to James Jett, who was like an Olympic track athlete, and Darius Hayward Bay and James Trapp. And they drafted all these guys because they were fast. And they never ended up being anything. So, yes, it's like getting to the major leagues and you throw 98, but you have nothing else. You can't locate and you can't change speeds. And eventually people are going to time you. So I agree. There's a lot more to being an NFL receiver than just flat out speed. It obviously helps, but you have guys that run, like I said, CeeDee Lamb ran a 4.52. I'll take CeeDee Lamb over almost any receiver in the NFL. And I was a big fan of him. I was a big fan of him too. But he didn't blow anybody away with his 40 time, but God almighty, he's fantastic. And that's kind of what Odunze to me is. The catch radius, the ability to make the tough catches, the good size, and he's fast enough. So,
yeah, I mean, James, it's impossible for us to answer this question right now because we don't know who's there. But I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen, James. And I said it earlier. I have not changed my opinion on this now for 3 months, before free agency, after free agency. I think the first 3 picks are going to be quarterback. That's going to be Caleb, Jaden Daniels. I think he's a good fit for Washington, and Drake Maye. I do think he's going to end up with New England. And then I expect a team, not the Giants, to trade up for J.J. McCarthy. I think 4 quarterbacks are going in the first 5 picks, which leaves us probably with either Neighbors or Odunze. And I mean, maybe you throw in a surprise pick that would probably piss Baddog off. Joe Alt. I get if they're not going quarterback and they weren't going wide receiver, I would guess that would be what they would do. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a wide receiver, and I think it's either going to be Neighbors or Odunze. Whoever is the preference for the New York Giants. I think both of them are going to be available. It's possible Neighbors isn't. If only 3 quarterbacks go, then I guess McCarthy's a possibility. But the way I look at it, Baddog, is this. If the Giants want McCarthy, they're not taking him at 6. They're not taking him at 6 because there is no way, if you want J.J. McCarthy, knowing that the Minnesota Vikings traded up to get the 23rd pick to get more potential ammunition to move up and get him, they're not staying at 6. So if they're staying at 6, which I think they're going to, even if McCarthy gets there, I don't think they're taking him because I think they would have traded up to get him in the first place. That's how I feel about J.J. McCarthy. So I think they either take him at 4 or 5 or they don't take him at all. And if they stay at 6, I think it's a wide receiver, like we've said all night, man. I think it's Neighbors or Odunze. Unless they may say
we've been saying that for a long time, that it's going to be a receiver at 6. So I agree. I think that one of those guys is getting there, and I think the Giants are going to take one of those receivers. And I'm going to be happy with any one of those 3. So preference, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors. But you could pick any name out of a hat, and I'd be happy with any one of those 3 guys on the Giants because I feel like we'd actually have a playmaker to make plays on the outside for the first time, since Victor Cruz, since Odell Beckham. So
crazy. And let's see. Stanley says, how y'all being optimistic of the Giants season when they just let the best talent go to the Eagles and now we stuck with a mediocre quarterback? I mean, we don't know what the team's going to be like yet. Let's let the draft take place, Stanley, but I don't know if I'm optimistic for the Giants next year.
Yeah, I don't know if we're optimistic.
I'm cautiously optimistic that I think we have a smart general manager in place, and I do think we have a good head coach. I would have let Barkley go too, though. So I'm not upset about that. I'm not upset about that. There's no way I would have given Barkley the contract that the Philadelphia Eagles gave him. Love Barkley, wanted him to retire a Giant, didn't make sense. So I would have let him go. Probably would have let McKinney go. I would have been more open to bringing him back because of his age, but I don't fault the Giants for not paying him that money. The Giants got better in the two most important areas outside of the quarterback position this offseason. That's undeniable.
Offensive line.
The question is, how much better on the offensive line? You got to hope that bringing in Carmen Brasillo is going to improve it. And obviously, they added some guys on the line in free agency, and I do think they're going to continue. They brought in Cooper Beebe, who I know you like. They brought him in for a visit today.
I do like Cooper Beebe. I could see him being a second-round pick.
He's a potential second-round pick, so we'll see if they continue to address the offensive line. But they got better on the line, and they got better with the pass rush, obviously by adding Brian Burns. So I wouldn't consider myself optimistic, but do I think the Giants could be competitive next year? Yeah, I think they have one of the better defensive lines in the NFL, on paper at least, with Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and that could keep you in football games. So I don't, I still don't think we're a Super Bowl contender. We're not even close to a Super Bowl contender. We got a ways to go, but getting a guy like a Malik Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison Jr. would at least start assisting us getting there. But we're not there yet, Baddog. We're not even close. I got to see how this offensive line develops this year.
What I would say I'm optimistic about, and you kind of hinted at it. I'm optimistic in the fact I think the Giants are going in the right direction. I think this year you saw Joe Shane say, okay, we have to really kind of start over here, and you start at the line of scrimmage. You start with the offensive line. You start with the pass rush. As much as this game has changed, the game is still won at the line of scrimmage. And we need to get, a pass rush. And we know that our defense coordinator doesn't blitz. He's not Wink Martindale. So you got to get pressure with the front four. So you add a guy like Brian Burns, to Dexter Lawrence, to Kayvon Thibodeau, to guys like Bobby Okereke, Mike McFadden. The Giants have a pretty solid front seven. You got to be optimistic about the front seven. The Giants have one of the best front sevens in the league. They have one of the best defensive lines in the league. Now, our secondary is a lot of questions.
And I saw Eric Garrison say it in the chat. I want Chris Jenkins, man, or I want a player like him.
Oh, I would love to get Chris Jenkins.
Just get that final piece to that front seven.
Yes.
I'm with you. I love our front seven, but go ahead.
Yeah, but our secondary's obviously got some questions. We don't really have a second corner. We let McKinney go. Penix played really well. Dane Belton looked pretty solid at the end of the year, but I feel like that's a lot of questions. But if you have a good front seven, it can mask an average secondary if you're getting to the quarterback and they have to throw the ball before they want to. So again, this not going to happen overnight. You're not a bad team for 10 years and one day it goes off and you're all of a sudden really great. But Joe Shane, this is the way you do it. You build from the inside out. And I think they'll still address some of these positions in the draft as well. But like Chris said, I think we got a smart GM. I think Brian Dable's still a really good coach. I think he had a bad year last year. And I think they're going to build a team the way they want to build it now. The Gettleman guys are out of here. This is Joe Shane's team. And I feel like they did a very good job in free agency. Now they have to nail this draft. They have to get this right.
Diego says, what's up, guys? You ready for MHJ? If they take MHJ, I'm going to have a bottle of champagne next to me. I'm just going to pop it open and spray it. I'm going to ruin my computer. If they take Marvin Harrison Jr. I would freaking love that pick. So, I'd be popping bottles if we ended up with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy too.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for being here, buddy. Kevin says, New York Giants had a top 30 visit from, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Justin Penix actually posted a clip of him, the tight end out of Kansas State. Watch his tape, looks phenomenal. After I saw Justin Penix post that, I did go on YouTube actually and watch some of his highlights. He looks like a big dude at the tight end spot. I'd be open to that. I don't know where he's being mocked. I haven't done a ton of research into him, but I did watch him after Penix posted that because he went in for a top 30 visit. But I don't think I'd want a tight end in the first 2 rounds, but in the 3rd round, I'd be completely open to it. I don't know where he's being mocked.
Yeah, I don't want to tight end in the first 2 rounds either. I just feel like there's more pressing issues with this team than the tight end. But yeah, day 3, I don't know. We'll see. I still have hope for Bellinger, and we don't even know what the hell is going on with Darren Waller either. He still hasn't decided what the hell.
I think Darren Waller is going to retire.
I think he should.
Like if you're Darren Waller at this point, like, what are you doing? Like,
What are you doing?
make up your mind, dude. Like, if you're not 100% committed, you shouldn't be playing. So
I agree.
I think he's going to retire. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. Like, what do you think is the holdup for Darren Waller? Like, I've seen people on Twitter say,
Money?
"Oh, it's Daniel Jones." I don't think it's Daniel Jones.
Money?
Yeah. You think it's money?
Does he want to get paid? Is he? Because if you're thinking about it this long, you're not really committed to playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to be 100% committed, especially when you've had injury history? I don't know if the guy's married. I don't know if he has a family.
He's at least dating that girl. I think he's married to her. He's married to I think she's a WNBA player, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so I don't know. Does he have kids? Because I mean that plays a part in it too. You start talking with your family. I mean, there's life after football. He's 31 years old, so he's getting near the end of his career as a football, but they don't usually last very long. They get to like 34, 35, they call it a day, especially a guy like that who's had injury problems. He just needs to go, man. If you're not fully committed to being an NFL player, then you're going to do nobody any good. You could end up getting hurt. You're going to hurt your team. What the hell's the point of any of that?
The Giants are clearly preparing for life after him. I mean, they signed like 3 tight ends, and they're bringing other guys in for top 30 visits. So they're clearly preparing for life without Darren Waller. So he was always a stopgap guy. You were hoping you get 2 years out of him, but he was always a stopgap guy because there wasn't a better number 1 option in last year's free agency class or in the draft where we were picking. So he was always a stopgap guy. Don J says, how about we sign Gilmore after the draft? I mean, how old is Gil? He's like 30. What is he, like 33, 34? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be against it as a veteran, as a 1-year signing. I wouldn't be against it. And I do think the Giants will sign somebody. I don't know if it'll be Gilmore. I mean, maybe it'll be Adoree Jackson. Maybe they'll bring him back if it's a cheap enough contract. But I think they'll sign somebody. I think they'll sign a veteran corner. They're probably waiting till after the draft, after they see what their roster looks like. But I do think they'll sign a veteran corner somewhere because there's a lot of youth.
They have to. You can't go in with Hawkins and Banks.
Yeah.
So.
He's like 33, 34 though. I don't know. I mean, whatever. If it's a 1-year stopgap, whatever. But he's not a guy that is gonna, do be a part of the future of this team.
Right.
Blizzard says, I think we're a quarterback and wide receiver 1 away from being respectable again. Drake and Daves are a match made in heaven. I think cornerback is a major need in the second round. Cornerback's certainly a major need.
Blizzard, it is.
Whether it be getting a stopgap guy like the previous donator just suggested. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I say his name. Like Don J just said, or taking one in the draft, but they definitely need to fill that hole before the year starts for sure. We'll see. We'll see if they elect to go corner. I think they will go corner. I just don't know when. It might be day 2, early day 3. I definitely think we're going to go corner relatively early in this year's draft. Certainly won't be in the first round, but for sure. And then you said, I think we're a quarterback and wide receiver away from being respectable again. I mean, well, if the line's decent, which hopefully it becomes decent, it could happen quick. You saw it happen with the Cincinnati Bengals, right? When they got Joe Burrow and they got Jamar Chase. You saw it happen last year with the Houston Texans when they got C.J. Stroud. Life's a lot easier in the NFL when you find the quarterback. It's just
the quarterback makes it. Yeah, I said it doesn't just turn around overnight. Well, if you get a superstar quarterback, it can turn around pretty damn quick.
Yeah, it's just hard to find them. Like people just think it's easy, but for every CJ Stroud, I could point to 7 Josh Rosens and Sam Darnolds. It's why there's a lot of teams that have never even had a true franchise quarterback. So
like the Bears have never had one.
The Jets, I mean, other than Joe Namath, but in recent history. So it's easier said than done. But when you find that quarterback, things could turn quick, and hopefully we find it. But I agree with you. But Fob Blizzard, that's kind of like you could say that for every team in the league. You could say that for every team in the league. Every team in the league is a franchise quarterback and wide receiver 1 away from being contenders. There's only 8 to 10 franchise quarterbacks in the league, though. So they don't grow on trees. They're not easy to find. But you could pretty much say that about any team, right, Ben? I mean, if you got a top 8 quarterback and a top 5 or 10 wide receiver,
you're going to be pretty competitive.
You're going to be competitive for the most part.
But I do think that if the Giants had a superstar quarterback with what they did to the defense, I think they could be a really good team. they have they got work to do. I'm anxious to see what they do in the draft. I really am. Like, it's funny we talk about Justin Pugh earlier. Like, I hadn't been on Twitter like in a couple weeks because there's I don't really have anything to say. During the draft and during the football, like during football season, like the end of the football season, the college football and the draft, I was on there all the time, right? But there's not much to say. And then I just happened to pop up and saw that Justin Pugh followed me, which was pretty awesome. So I obviously appreciate the people on Twitter when Justin Pugh said, "Hey, give me some good content creators." And everyone was like, Chris and Baddog. So
that's why we got him on the show.
That's why you follow. That's why he ended up following me. And then I told Chris, I'm like, check this out, man. This is pretty cool. Cause he's like, we could probably get him on the show. Yeah. And he did agree to do it. So, definitely looking forward to that. But, hey man, yeah, when the draft gets nearer, we'll go back to Twitter a little bit, but.
And Blitz, I agree with you, by the way. I do think if we got a top 10 quarterback, this would be a playoff team. Like Baddog said, we got really good defense. I agree with you. King Josh says, I just hope we could find that guy, whether it's JJ McCarthy or a guy we drafted next year or whatever. But there's no guarantees we're going to. King Josh says, I heard the scenario that Baddog said at Dunze and Penix. I say, why not keep
Yeah, I don't know. The chemistry going. Yeah, no, I don't know what not is either. But yes, pair them up. They have familiarity already. So the fact that you would be bringing in a number one receiver and a future quarterback, and he's kind of got a security blanket already, I definitely think it would help without question because they're both used to each other. There would be no adjustment period. The only adjustment period would be adjusting to the more complex defenses and the speed of the NFL, but those two know what to do. So you wouldn't have to build any chemistry between those two guys. I would love that. I mean, that's really my dream scenario is to be able to get both Penix and Odunze out of this draft. Stranger things have happened. I don't think that's probable at all. Odunze is definitely Odunze is a very big possibility that he's a Giant.
Oh, I think if the Giants want to do Dunze, he'll be a Giant. I think he'll get the pick 6.
Yeah.
So,
yes, I do.
Yeah, if they want to do Dunze, he'll be a Giant. I think there's a chance Penix could drop only because of the injuries. But I'm still leaning he'll go before we pick again at 47. I think.
I think he'll go back at very latest back into the first round because somebody's going to take him and want to get that 5th-year option. So
let's see. Oh, why not? Oh, that means why not? Okay.
Oh, gotcha. Yes. Why not keep? Well, listen, we're old. I'm old anyway. I don't know. Why not? Yeah, I guess so.
Let's see. Demon says, I doubt everything until I see it. I remember game 1 last year. And that's the way I am with the offensive line. I doubt it until I see it.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong, but I just they've done damage to me over the last 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
David says, hey guys, love when you two are together. They're great shows. I appreciate that, man. This is the first time. This is the first time in years I don't have a great feel for who we are taking. Yeah, I'm the same way, Dave. In previous years, we had a general idea. Well, you know what, Dave? I think I know what we're gonna do. I just don't know what player we're gonna take. But if it's either quarterback or wide receiver, you just don't know how the draft's gonna unfold before we pick, and
we don't know who's gonna be available.
We don't know who's gonna be available, but I think it's gonna be quarterback or wide receiver. I'd be pretty surprised if it wasn't. If they went offensive line
unless they traded back.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be quarterback or wide receiver.
I do too.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Eric says the key to winning games on defense is getting off the field 3rd down. And well, yeah. I'm actually excited to not have a guy that's gonna blitz as much as Wink. And I know I was excited to get Wink because I think it's kind of like a breakup. When you break up with somebody, you want to kind of date somebody the opposite. It was the same thing. You went from Patrick Graham to an ultra aggressive. Well, now I'm kind of sick of the ultra aggressive, and I want a guy that could generate pressure without having to send 6 or 7 guys every time. So hopefully this pass rush is able to do that. But I'm excited about our new defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. T says I've never seen a quarterback who failed after 5 seasons have so many truthers still making. I don't know who's making excuses for him.
I got on Twitter. Oh my!
On Twitter, yeah,
all the time, all the time.
yeah.
This is the 6th year, man. You know what he is by now. Oh, there he goes again. He'll be back in a second, but yeah, listen, I understand you want your players to do well. I get it, and I get that the offensive line hasn't been good, but there is just way too many excuses. We won games with Tommy DeVito, and then there's Giants fans that are pissed off at Tommy DeVito for winning games because now we're picking 6th instead of 2nd. Can't win. I didn't even try anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think most Giant fans at this point know that the Giants are moving on from Daniel Jones. It's just a matter of when. This year, obviously, they're contractually obligated to him. We're not necessarily picking in a spot where we could take a quarterback. I mean, we could, but I wouldn't be stunned if we don't. So the question is the heir apparent going to be this year that they take or next year? I mean, but I'd be stunned if Daniel Jones is the long-term quarterback of this team at this point. I mean, the injury history, the lack of production last year after he got the contract. So I don't know. I don't see many people, but I'm sure there's still some. Well, there are still some, like you said on Twitter.
God, Twitter is great. Twitter is great. Very entertaining. You want to be entertained, just go to Twitter. Just read the stuff. Very good.
No Limit says, what do you guys think of a trade down for McKinstry? Kool-Aid? I mean, if we're gonna, that's the only way we would get him because he won't get to 47, and we're not going to take him at 6. Right. So I think that's the only scenario where you would end up with a player like that. But if the Giants were to trade down, like which I don't want to do, but if they were to take that package we talked about earlier with 11 and 23, yeah, a player like that becomes a possibility. But outside of a trade down or a trade back up into the first round, I just don't think he falls where we're picking.
I don't either. I think McKinstry will go middle of the first to somebody. I don't really see a scenario where we even 11. I don't think the Giants. I mean, I can't see. I don't think they would do that at 11. But who knows? I just don't. I don't. That's not probable. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier. Yeah, I just started watching clips of him a couple of days ago when Justin Penix posted about him. We'll see. If we go tight end, he's clearly a possibility. We brought him in for a top 30 visit. He had some cool highlights, but we'll see. I'm not in love with the idea of taking a tight end early, but hey, if it's your BPA, it's your BPA. We'll see. I don't think we're going tight end though with one of our first 2 picks. Let's see. Bill says, I just don't get how you can watch this team the past 5 years and ignore the factors that led to him not thriving. I think Baddog and me certainly have been. I know you're not talking to us, Bill. You're probably talking to people in the chat, but I think Baddog and me have been very fair with Daniel Jones, and we've acknowledged that there's been other factors than him that have caused his lack of production. The biggest DJ hater won't acknowledge it, but I think most fans acknowledge that Daniel Jones did not get a good deal, but you could say that about a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. But at this point, man, I think he's I think he's a shell-shock quarterback too. And I think once you get to that point, that's hard to overcome. That's hard to correct. And you saw it last year, man. And I don't think I hope I'm wrong. Like if he gets a chance this year, I hope he's incredible. And I hope he is the long-term answer, but I'm off that train at this point. I don't think he'll be the long-term answer.
Yeah, I think the thing is, people, and I love it because I saw someone in the chat say, "Oh, we're haters." Criticizing a player for poor play is not hating. This is what you do as a content creator. This is what you do as when you're a professional in the media. When you're an analyst, you're professional. You're making millions of dollars. You're on ESPN. You're on NFL Network. You're on these big things. You're a play-by-play guy. Whatever you're doing in the limelight. Not on YouTube, not a couple of guys, a couple of jamokes on YouTube just doing their thing, right? A couple of bumalooks, all right? Not us. But that's their job. If somebody's not playing well and you say he's got to do a better job or he doesn't process fast enough or he can't read a defense, that's not hating. That's talking about what you watch week in and week out. Hating is when a guy succeeds and you point out the things he did wrong. Like when you don't give them any credit. Chris and I were Chris and I were all about give Daniel Jones a contract. He deserves it. He played well. What can we do? We're picking 24th. Can't take a quarterback, and this quarterback class sucks anyway.
Well,
so
where we were picking. I mean,
right. That's what I'm saying. Where we were picking. I'm sorry, not last year. Well, where were you picking? But I'm saying the year before. Like, we weren't taking any quarterback there. So it was like you're stuck there. And Brian Dable looked like he turned him around. And, hey, this was this. And then they asked him to do more last year, and he couldn't do it. But, again, this isn't just his fault. As I've said, it's a bad marriage. His skill set does not – Daniel Jones cannot – he's not good enough to make up the deficiencies around him. Where a guy like C.J. Stroud elevated that team from a 3-13 team to a playoff team because – he could do that. Texans don't have a fantastic roster. Is Tank Dell some superstar wide receiver that we don't know of? It just changes things. It just changes things. It just doesn't work here. Daniel Jones could go to a better team and be a very good quarterback. As I stated, how are you a hater when I'm sitting there saying if he was on the Minnesota Vikings, he'd be a very good quarterback? Or if he's on the Eagles, he'd be a very good quarterback. How is that hating? He's not a good quarterback here. He won't be a good quarterback here. Maybe in his future, he will be a good quarterback somewhere else. But this ain't working.
Yeah. Can't deny it at this point.
It ain't working.
And Jay says, bro, sorry I'm late. Family dinner. What are you apologizing for, man? Thanks for being here. G-Man got to go wide receiver round 1. What are your thoughts there? Yeah, dude, we've been saying that all night, man. That's where we're at. Outside of something unforeseen happening, like a quarterback dropping. Or if Drake Maye becomes available, who I love, that's what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to take a wide receiver. Also, do you think Joe and Dable are a package deal? I do not think they're a package deal. I mean, obviously, ideally, they're a package deal. You want them to stay together forever. You don't want these guys to ever get fired because that would be great. That means the team's doing well. But no, I don't think they're a package deal. I could definitely foresee a scenario at some point where Dable gets fired and Shane keeps his job. I don't think it would be I think if it was going to be split up, I think that's the way it would be. I don't think Dable would keep his job and Shane would be fired. I think Dable would be fired first because Shane would point the finger. Because there's going to come a point in time if the team continues to struggle that Joe Shane's going to have to point the finger somewhere else. And last year it was the defensive coordinator. It was the offensive line coach. It was this. It was that. Well, it's going to continue to elevate. So I could foresee a scenario. I don't know if it'll be next year, but where they are split up. But ideally, yeah. I mean, that's obviously Shane's guy. He doesn't want to move on from Dable. He brought him over from Buffalo. But yeah, I don't think it's a lock that they're a marriage. Like if Shane needs to save his job, he's going to save his job.
Yeah. And also, you would never fire the GM and keep the coach because the next GM is going to want his own coach.
Yeah, exactly.
So if the GM goes, the coach is going. Yeah. But the coach can definitely go without the GM. The GM is the more important position there. So because they have control of the entire team pretty much. So yeah, but Chris Niles talked about this when Gettleman was here. You don't want to have that rotating door of like numerous coaches under the same GM. So you kind of want to, like, we feel like the mistake was when they let go of Coughlin, they should have let go of Jerry Reese at that point. They both should have went together. And then they brought in McAdoo, and then they did both end up going, and they brought in Shermer, and then Shermer ended up going. They brought in Judge, and then Judge went with Gettleman, but Gettleman stayed. So that's kind of tough. Let's just hope they turn this damn team around and they start going in the right direction, and we don't have to worry about it. Let's hope these guys are together for the next 10 to 15 years.
Xavier says that's why quarterback is the most important position. Of course. Quarterback's the most important position probably in any sport. Now, do quarterbacks need things around them to be as successful as they could potentially be? Absolutely. It's such a unique position because it is dependent on the play caller, the weapons around him, the offensive line, but an elite quarterback, and there are not many of them. That's why the word elite is used. An elite quarterback is the most impactful position probably in all of 4 major sports. That's how important a quarterback is to a football team. Look around the league. The top quarterbacks in the league are always competing to win a Super Bowl. Every year you see Josh Allen, at least in the second round. Every year you see Pat Mahomes hoisting the trophy. Every year Lamar Jackson's competing. So if you have a top 7, 8 quarterback, you're going to have a good chance to compete to win Super Bowls or at least be in the tournament every year. So, yeah, it's absolutely the most important position. It's the most important position in all sports.
Yep, without question.
There's just not. I don't think there's a ton of elevators, but if you could get one of those guys, yeah. Like right now, I think there might be 8 to 10 true franchise quarterbacks. Jordan Love is certainly one of them. I think he's certainly trending towards being that, but it's not easy to find. But when you find it, yeah, it's the most important position in all sports. Xerox says, miss you guys. I think Harrison will drop to us at 6.
I hope so, brother. I hope so. I hope so. I don't think he will, but I would love that to happen.
I don't know. I don't know what I'd put what would you put the percentage at that he falls to us?
30%.
30%. You're that high. 30%. That's pretty high.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, I think the first 4 picks end up being quarterbacks. And if that's the case, I mean, Los Angeles could definitely take Marvin Harrison, pair him up with Justin Herbert. That'd be pretty good. But we've talked about it. Jim Harbaugh loves the O-line. He's all about the O-line. You want to protect your franchise quarterback, a guy you just gave $260 million or whatever the hell he got in Justin Herbert, where it's a deep wide receiver class, and you can probably get a good wide receiver like a Ladd McConkey in the 2nd round or an Xavier Legette with the 37th overall pick. You could definitely get a good wide receiver with that pick. So it is possible that he says, I'll wait till the 2nd round and I'll take one of those other guys. I want to protect my quarterback, get him the best left tackle in the draft, and get your receiver later in the draft. So yeah, it's more possible than I thought it was. Like if you would have asked me this a month ago, Chris, I would have said no shot in hell. But with everything that's come out now, I think 30%. I think 30% we could get him.
2 things have to happen. 2 out of 3 things need to happen for him to fall to us. 4 quarterbacks need to go in the first 5
Yep.
picks. That needs to happen. And then the Chargers or the Cardinals, whoever the team is that doesn't trade out, needs to either value Joe Alt above MHJ or have Malik Neighbors over MHJ. That's possible. And it's insane that it is, because I think MHJ is, if not the best, the 2nd best player in this draft. But it's possible. It certainly could happen. I'm more at 15 to 20%, but I think it's a possibility. I think if the Chargers want to go lineman, which I certainly think they might want to go lineman, knowing Jim Harbaugh and the way that he wants to construct a football team, I think they got to be looking to trade down. I think Joe Alt's a great prospect, and maybe they just stay there and take him. But if you're Harbaugh and you want to go lineman, there's a 3 or 4 guys there that most people have going in the top 10 to 15 picks. If you could trade down and get future draft capital, and you got to be, you have to think if the Cardinals don't trade down, they're going to have the opportunity to do so. I think you got to be looking to trade down if you're the Chargers. If a team's knocking on your door to move up to that 5th pick, if you want to go lineman.
Do you think if Minnesota traded a 4 in the first 4 picks quarterbacks,
yeah,
could you see the Giants trying to trade with Los Angeles?
I posted this on Twitter today. I posted that exact question on Twitter today because I thought the same thing this morning, and because I'm thinking in my head, mock draft, 4 quarterbacks go with the first 4 picks. Chargers are at 5. They want to go linemen, and so many people just scoffed at it. Like, why would you ever do that? Well, it's obvious why you would do it.
They did it last year. We moved up 1 position to get Deontay Banks.
Yeah, and exactly. And it all would come down to, how does Joe Shane value the wide receivers at that point? Does he think there's a gap between Marvin Harrison and Neighbors or whoever his number 1 guy is? If he feels that way, and he has the ability to essentially get the first pick in the draft, first non-quarterback in the draft, if you really think there's a gap, I'd give up a future 3rd round pick to do that, which it probably wouldn't cost much more than that. To move back 1 spot from 5 to 6 for a wide receiver. You're not talking about trading up for a quarterback. And then the Chargers are happy. They get an extra pick and they still get the guy they wanted at 5. I actually brought that exact scenario up today on Twitter because I
see great minds, baby. Great mind. You're working together a long time. And by the way, just so you know, like in a couple weeks, I say this jokingly and somewhat jokingly and somewhat seriously. My wife is always very happy when the draft comes because I'm Chris's problem for a whole weekend, and she loves that. Yeah, Chris, you have to babysit him for a weekend.
But I thought about it. It's funny that you brought that up because I posted it today. I'm like, because I haven't seen any. It's crazy that you said that because I haven't seen anybody talk about that as a possibility.
Like I said, great minds, baby. We've been working together a long time, man. So,
but it makes sense. It makes sense at least that could be an option if 4 quarterbacks go with the first 4 picks.
Yeah.
Xerox says, miss you guys. I think, I just read that, but I don't think he'll drop the 6, but I think it's more likely than I ever thought it would be, which is, that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see if it happens. I would love it if it happens. Matter of fact, I'm going to have some champagne ready in case it does. Let's see. J-Man says, thoughts on the G-Man faking quarterback. I don't think they're faking quarterback interest, but I'm going to continue to read it. So that Minnesota and Denver get nervous and trade up so that way we get either Neighbors, Dunze, or Harrison. Thank you. Here's my thoughts on it, Jay. I think the Giants are legitimately doing homework at the most important position in all sports, as they should, being that you're picking at 6th overall. What I will say is I wouldn't put it past Joe Shane, and I think that's why he's bringing all these guys in. I think it's why he's showing interest in every one of them, because there's no way that Joe Shane loves all 4 quarterbacks. It's the odds of that is slim. You're usually going to have a preference of one or two over the other. So do I think it's possible Joe Shane may be trying to oversell his interest on a particular quarterback prospect, knowing that it could potentially benefit him? Yes. But I do think that Shane is absolutely doing his homework on that position, as he should. And you don't just think about it from the New York Giants perspective either. I brought this up on Twitter. Giants brought Jaden Daniels in for a top 30 visit. A lot of Giants fans may look at that and say, well, why are you doing that? More than likely, Washington's taking him. You're not going to have the opportunity to draft him. You always do your homework just in case something unforeseen happens. But you also get some intel on a guy that you're probably going to be playing twice a year for the next 10 years if Washington takes him. So there's a lot of motives to these visits when they bring these quarterbacks in.
Let me ask you this scenario. The first 3 quarterbacks in the draft are Caleb, Daniels, McCarthy.
Yeah.
So at 4, Drake Maye's out there.
Yeah.
Does Joe Shane say, all right, I'm going up and getting Drake?
I think he would.
I'm not waiting for a wide receiver. What's that?
I think he would.
Yeah, that would not bother me.
I think he would. I think Drake May's been their guy all along, and I haven't heard that from anybody. It just makes sense in terms of the type of quarterback that he is. If Drake Maye gets to 4, I think he'll be a Giant, and I think the Giants will take him with the 4th pick. Because if you're Arizona, who could offer a better deal than the New York Giants that needs a quarterback? Minnesota.
You're also going to get. You could still get Marvin Harrison at 6 if you're the Cardinals. You're still going to get one of the top 3 wide receivers.
Exactly.
Like with Minnesota, you're not getting that.
Yeah. For me, if I'm the Arizona Cardinals and I'm looking at the offer from the Giants and the Giants offer me 6 and 2 seconds, or Minnesota's willing to give me the 11th, the 23rd, and a future second even on top of that, I think I'm still taking the Giants offer because, like you just said, I get Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors. That's a big difference from what I would get with the 11th pick. Right. So if the Giants want a quarterback, I think they have more to offer than anybody else in the draft simply because of where they're picking.
Right.
That's an elite player. That's a blue chip player that you could get with that pick. And yeah, I think that's the one scenario, in my opinion, at least. And I don't know what Joe Shane has on his board. Sure. I just look at the type of quarterback that Drake Maye projects to be. I think I'm not going to say he's Josh Allen, but I think he's that style of quarterback. And if he were to get to 4, I actually think the Giants make the call, and I think they'd move up.
Now, all we got to do is get Joe Shane on the show. We can ask him these questions.
But I don't think he's getting to 4, so don't get your hopes up.
Right. No, I don't either. We're throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks because you never know. I mean, there is all these scenarios. We've seen this all the years you cover the draft and all the years that we watch the draft beforehand. There's always a player that rises, and this year it's McCarthy. And even Jaden Daniels, like these guys just really rose. And there's always the guy that falls for whatever reason, whether it be an injury thing popped up or a medical thing popped up, or oh, this guy got busted for smoking. Well, that's illegal now, but still, I don't think you're supposed to do that in the NFL. Oh, this guy got busted for weed or whatever the hell they're doing. You don't know. It's just
smoke weed every day.
You never know. So who knows? But I don't. Again, that's an unlikely scenario, but maybe New England loves JJ McCarthy.
It's not as unlikely as you may think, though, because if I would have told you 2 weeks before the draft in 2018 that Baker Mayfield's going to go ahead of Sam Darnold, you would have said I'm stupid.
I wouldn't have.
Well, you love Mayfield, but
I love Baker.
Everybody had Darnold going first, or Josh Rosen.
Right.
Most people had Mayfield at 3 or 4, but then the day of or the day before the draft, he's all of a sudden.
I think that's why the Jets actually traded up, because they wanted Baker Mayfield. I'm pretty sure they made that move before the draft, right? And I think they did it because they thought they were going to get Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Because they thought Darnold was going first overall, and then they ended up with Darnold, which I never liked Sam Darnold. But I loved Baker. So you don't know. You really don't. You never know what the hell is going to happen. So, who the hell thought Daniel Jones going 6th?
Not us.
2 weeks before the draft. 2 weeks before the draft. What's that?
Clearly not us.
Right.
You saw a draft night reaction, yeah. And to be fair, looking back at it, we had all the news. Everything. Ralph Vacchiano came out, like everybody said it. We refused to believe it.
I just was like, there is no way in hell that's real. Because I didn't even, again, I never watched Duke football. Who the hell watches Duke football? Yeah. Okay, nobody. Right? Nobody even goes to the games at Duke. Like the alum don't even watch Duke football. They watch Duke basketball.
The guys on Duke football don't even watch Duke football. Like if they're off that day, if they have an injury, they don't even watch the game.
Right. So I'm not sitting there going, oh God, I got to do all this watching all the stuff on Daniel Jones. I never even heard of Daniel Jones until these articles came out. I'm like, that can't be right. That can't be right. And it was right. And yeah. Rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. And Rodney says, if the Bills were open to trading Josh Allen, you could stop there. They're not going to be. But what would it take to get him? Heaven, hell, and earth. But there is no way. And I've seen people bring that up, and I even dreamt about it when I first saw the news that the Buffalo Bills were trading Stephon Diggs. I said to myself, well, maybe that'll upset Josh Allen, and he'll want to get out. But I think they traded Diggs to make Allen happy, because Diggs was kind of a he was a guy that was kind of mouthing off a lot, and there was, word was coming out that he wasn't getting along with Josh Allen. If you have a quarterback that good, that young, you don't trade him.
Yeah, he's not
going to trade him. Tell me a quarter. Maybe I'm forgetting. I don't count Deshaun Watson because that was obvious. Like, so, but tell me a quarterback where it wasn't a situation like that is 25, 26 years old in the prime of his career, as talented as Josh Allen, that a team shipped off. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. It's like it'd be like shipping off a left tackle like that. It's not happening either.
Yeah, it's not happening. Blizzard says, if May falls to 4, we have to trade up. No excuses.
I think they would. I think if May fell to 4, I think the Giants are definitely getting him. Like Chris said, if May falls to 4, I think he's a Giant.
Yeah, I wouldn't say for sure, but yeah, I think just thinking about it, because I've thought all along he's their guy. So if I believe that, and knowing that the Giants have so much more to offer than anybody else just because of where they're picking, yeah, I would bet he'd be a Giant. But I don't think the Giants could stay at 6. They'd have to move up to 4 to get him. Yeah, that's what I think. If New England doesn't take him, I think Drake Maye will be a Giant. That's my prediction. I'm just predicting New England's going to take him, but we'll see.
Somebody said Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford was like 33 when he got traded, though. I don't think he was like in the
he wasn't in the prime of his career. He wasn't in the prime.
He's still a really good quarterback, but I don't think he was in his 20s. I'm pretty sure he was in his early 30s.
He had at least 10 years in the
league. I think he's 35 or 36 now, so he's been around a long time.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of a quarterback. Maybe there's one you could say. Drew Brees. but he wasn't.
Yeah, true. But he had injury problems, and didn't he? Like, he was going to be a Dolphin, but he failed the physical and ended up in New Orleans, right? Isn't that how that happened? And the Dolphins have something for him?
And obviously the writing was on the wall there because they had already drafted Rivers. Yeah. There's no way they trade Josh Allen. They do.
Yeah, like Rivers. I'm sorry, Breeze hadn't really taken off yet.
Yeah,
I think he might have had a good year, the year that they drafted Rivers, but then they had to move him out of there.
Yeah, it would be like if we drafted McCarthy this year and Daniel Jones had a good year, we would still have to get rid of him.
Right. Exactly.
It was that type of situation.
Yeah.
Miguel says, "No, please, not May." I'm not buying into it, man. Listen, maybe I'll be dead wrong. I've seen a lot of people stir up and everybody's entitled to their opinions. I know Chris Sims doesn't like Drake May. I think he has him as his quarterback 6. I've seen a lot of people.
He did. He had Bo Nix ahead of Drake.
Yeah, he had him as his quarterback 6. And I've seen other people start to question. And I see the things that people say about Drake May. I do. His footwork is sloppy as hell. Okay, sloppy.
That can be coached. That can be coached.
When I watch JJ McCarthy, it's the opposite. Like, to me, JJ McCarthy looks polished from a mechanical standpoint, which you're not surprised. He was coached by Jim Harbaugh, but footwork's great. When you watch Drake May, sloppy. At times he looks lazy, but you cannot teach his natural ability to make some of the throws that guy's capable of making. And I look at it like, well,
higher ceiling. He's got one of the highest ceilings in this draft.
Yeah, and I look at it like Dable was brought here for a player like him. Like, he's this quarterback guy. That's why he got this head coaching job to begin with. I'm going to trust that Dable could fix those things with a Drake May, who has this natural raw ability. I would love if the New York Giants got Drake May. I think he's a great fit for this team. I'm not
But
buying.
see, that's what I'm saying. Like, this could be the guy, Drake May, that kind of goes down. And maybe somebody does. Listen, I'm not saying that it would be stupid for the Commanders to not take Jay Daniels, but the last video I did, not live stream, was rumors that I heard that they are really interested in him at 2. Now, and Washington has nothing to gain from that because nobody's trading up to 2 with Washington. Washington's not trading out of that pick. I don't see McCarthy going there, but these are the things you read because, like Chris said, there's not much else to talk about right now. You're just coming up with all kinds of scenarios because anything can happen, but they're not likely scenarios. You've already discussed all the likelihood, the likely scenarios that are going to happen. But Drake May falling in New England, taking McCarthy over May, that's possible. I don't know how New England feels about either one of those quarterbacks.
I wouldn't be stunned. I'm definitely leaning they'll go May, but I wouldn't be stunned. I like McCarthy. I definitely don't like him more than May, but I could see a team convincing themselves. Weirder things have happened. That's for damn sure.
You never know.
And Omni says, if our draft went round 1, Adunze, round 2, corner, Melton, a lot of people, I actually would reverse that. Maybe I haven't been keeping up with the mock drafts. I actually think Fisk is more likely to be a second. Maybe you get Melton in the 3rd, but regardless, I see where your head's at. I like these picks so far. Corum, I love Corum. Yeah, that's a good draft, man. Giants get out of the draft with Adunze, Melton, Fisk. I think he'd be a great addition to this front 7. I'm a big fan of Corum. He's obviously not a bell cow back. He's undersized, but he'd be a nice piece in a rotation. He runs hard as hell. One of my favorite players in college football. Yeah, Baddog, that's a good draft. I'd be happy with that draft.
I would just switch out Fisk for Jenkins.
Yeah, either one. I mean, Fisk. Have you seen highlights of that guy's nasty?
Yeah,
that
a lot of people like him.
Yeah,
but I don't think Fisk gets to the 3rd round.
No, I don't think he gets to.
I think Jenkins could get to the 3rd round.
I don't think he does, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jenkins.
Well, who knows? When you get there, when you get out of the 2nd round, now you really have no clue.
Yeah,
like we've been covering the draft together since the Daniel Jones pick. I don't know that we've ever gotten a pick right after like round 2. I don't know if you ever said I could see us going here, and I don't think we've ever gotten one of those guys ever. Well, the first round, yes, we both thought they'd take Deonte Banks last year.
Yeah.
We both wanted Deonte Banks, especially when Emmanuel Forbes went.
JMS we both wanted when we saw he was available.
Correct. Yep. Kayvon Thibodeau.
We both wanted McKinney in the second round that year.
Yep. Kayvon Thibodeau. We knew that, and a tackle, and we got both of those guys.
Yeah.
The 1 year was Andrew Thomas. I remember, although I wanted Isaiah Simmons in that draft, but I remember we both thought Andrew Thomas.
We knew the tackle was on the menu.
Right.
Yeah.
But once you get out of the second round, forget about it. There was a lot of guys like, huh? Who? Oh, okay. He looks okay. Who?
That's usually the way it is, man.
I know. There's just so many guys to choose from.
Giant
and they do way more research on the stuff than we do.
Giant Social says, how do you guys feel about Joe Milton teaming up with Hyatt? I mean, again,
unless that's day 3.
As a 5th round guy, sure. I'm okay with it. Do I think Joe Milton's going to be the starting quarterback for this team anytime soon? No. He's a clear project that is probably more than likely not going to be a backup, but he's worth a shot in the 5th or 6th round if you like him and you think you could turn his tools into something. But yeah, I would lean we're not going to take Milton, but we certainly could in day 3, but we'll see. But you're not taking Milton because he played with Hyatt. You'd be taking Milton because of his tools and you think he could turn into something. Let's see. Tana, what do you think about? I actually had Nubins going to the Giants in the only mock draft I've done in the second round. I like him. Huge for I think he's 6'1", like 2. He's a big safety. He's more of an in the box guy. He's not, kind of like a prototype to replace a McKinney, but we run a different defensive scheme now than we did as well. But I like Nubin. He's if he's there at 47, he's probably going to be one of the 2 or 3 best players on the board. He's fun to watch. Let's see. Caesar says, would you trade up for Penix? Well, we know Baddog would.
Late first, yes.
We know
I wouldn't go up to I wouldn't give up a ton to go from 47 to 16, but 47 to 29 or 30, yes, without question. Without question.
Well, Rob, we know that Hendon Hooker played with him last year, but he obviously played with him at Tennessee. I think that was what he was getting at. But yes, Hendon Hooker was his quarterback. Would you trade up for Penix 47 to mid to late first and keep the 6th pick for a wide receiver?
Yeah, Odunze.
Yeah. I'd be
Penix. Make it happen. Make it happen, Joe.
I'd be completely fine with that because at that point, there's no way. Like I've seen people on Twitter after Michael Penix's pro day have said he's going top 6 now. Giants have to take him at 6. Put yourself in the mind of a general manager. Don't just think about it from your mindset. If you love the prospect, if you're Joe Shane, regardless of what the medicals say, regardless how you may feel about his injury history, if you think he's overcome it, if you're Joe Shane and you take Michael Penix with the 6th pick and he gets hurt, you're going to get destroyed.
You're fired.
You're fired. You're going to get killed. So there's no way you take him at 6. But if Michael Penix slips to 27, 28, at that point, not much of a financial commitment. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that if you were to fall to that point. I'd sign up for that. That's what I was hoping McCarthy would fall to before this ascension. But if Penix falls into that area and the Giants are able to move up to get him, if they really like him, by all means.
Yeah, my God, listen, you're not going to find a bigger Michael Penix fan than me. Maybe, but I'm one of his larger fans. I've liked him since his days in Indiana. I wouldn't take him 6th. Yeah. I would not take him. There's too many questions. It's the same. Like I said, they're different questions, but that's why I'm scared of McCarthy that early because he wasn't asked to do anything in Michigan. He didn't have to. He would have to do it here. He would have to elevate. He didn't have to do that at any point in his career. People are like, oh, well, he converts on 3rd down, but sure. But when you have what they had in Michigan, it's different than what we have with the Giants. It's just different. So he's going to come into a bad situation as a rookie, and he could get knocked around. Maybe he is mentally tough, but they're like, oh, he was 27-1 as a starter, which tells me that's great, but that means he was never tested. There was no, he didn't have to show any resolve. He didn't have to, adversity. He didn't have to face any adversity there because they were so good. Here, as the 6th overall pick, yeah, you're going to have to face adversity, especially if you fail, because people are going to do to you what they did to Daniel Jones. and even Eli Manning at the beginning of his career. This is a tough market to play in. Fans want to win here, right? We New Yorkers in general, this section of the country, the Northeast, we're tough people. We have shitty weather. We are constantly hustling. We have to bust our ass. The cost of living is ridiculous. We're hard workers. We're blue-collar people. And we have to give 100%, 110% effort every day we walk out the door. We expect that from our players. And we expect them to succeed. And when you're taking that early, the expectations are huge, especially at that position. Maybe McCarthy can handle all that. Maybe he can't. I don't know. But that's why I don't want to take him six.
We also don't have as much insight as these teams. They get to
Definitely not
interview these guys, sit down with these guys. Johnny D says, if the Vikings came going with 11-23, I do not. Well, it depends, Johnny. But here's my argument to that, Johnny. If Malik Neighbors is at 6, what? And maybe you don't like Neighbors as much as I do, Johnny. But if Malik Neighbors is there at 6, why would I trade down to 11 without the not knowing who's going to get to me? At that point, Adunze is probably gone as well. Why would I trade down to 11 to get the 23rd pick? And maybe you don't like Neighbors as much as I do, or potentially Marvin Harrison Jr. as much as I do. But to me, those guys are like blue chip prospects. Like blue chip prospects. I'm not dropping 5 spots to get that 23rd pick. I'm staying there. And it's the same thing that I said earlier. If Arizona wanted to trade back, you got to value that 6th pick much higher than the 11th pick. So I don't know, Johnny. I don't think I'd be a fan of that trade. Only way I'd entertain that trade is if I'm Joe Shane, is if I felt there was a huge drop-off from Adunze to Neighbors if both Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. were gone. Or vice versa. If Adunze and Marvin Harrison Jr. were gone and I thought there was a huge drop-off with Neighbors. But if I thought those guys were blue chip prospects, I don't get cute, Baddog. I stay there and I take the pick.
Well, let me ask you this. Why would Minnesota trade?
Exactly. Well, maybe only 3 quarterbacks won.
But then why wouldn't if the Giants really like McCarthy, why would they trade out of that pick?
Well, obviously, if they're trading out, they wouldn't like McCarthy. They would trade out.
I have a feeling if McCarthy was...
you think they'd take him?
Actually, I don't know, because one of those 3 top receivers are still there.
Yeah.
But because Minnesota would be trading up to get McCarthy.
Right.
Which means that Atlanta take, well, let's see, who's after us? Tennessee? Why wouldn't they take Rome Odunze then?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to trade back.
I just can't see a scenario where we trade with Minnesota, because I think if Minnesota is going to trade, they're going up to 4 to get McCarthy. I just feel like they're going to jump ahead of the Giants. I can't see the Giants and Minnesota making that deal, because I don't know. Minnesota doesn't need a wide receiver. So unless McCarthy fell to 6, but I don't know. I don't think Minnesota would take the chance.
Yeah.
Of somebody, because what if the Minnesota? Well, shit. I think Minnesota would trade the 4 because they feel that the Giants would want McCarthy, so they're not going to be able to trade with the Giants for McCarthy.
The only way I could see the Giants, I could see a scenario where the Vikings have already talked to the Giants, and they know that if a quarterback gets there, the Giants are willing to trade down.
Right.
If it's said quarterback. But I agree with you. I don't think we'll be trading down. I think we're going to stand pat. We're going to play. We're either going to trade up if Maye falls to 4 or something, but more than likely, I think we're going to stand pat and take a receiver. Right? I don't know. I just think those players are way too good. Only way I trade down is if I get a future first.
Yeah.
A future first, not the 11 and 23. Independent says, in your opinion, what past draft picks turned out to be the biggest smoke screens? Well, I assume when you ask that, you mean what? Give me an example of when a team used the smoke screen to benefit themselves in the draft. If that's what you mean, I'd have to think.
The Browns, maybe. When they got Mayfield instead of Darnold, since all that talk was Darnold going 1 overall. I mean, Dave Gettleman didn't put up any smoke screens.
No,
we all talked about Dave Gettleman played poker and threw his cards out on the table before the last round of betting happened. So everybody knew what he was holding. We don't put any up.
Yeah. I mean, off the top of my head, it's a hard question to answer, but it certainly goes on. That's for sure. That's a hard question to answer off the top of my head. When's the last time there was a smoke screen? But yeah, like an individual one. But there's definitely GMs that maybe somebody in the chat said something. Well, JJ, that hasn't taken place yet. Let's see. When was the last time that I don't know? I'd have to think about that. Jay says you guys are truly appreciative of you both. Appreciate that. Baddog, your Laker games are epic. Our pass rush is the most exciting thing for me this season. G-men. We appreciate that, Jay.
Yeah,
Man.
definitely, Jay. Definitely.
And
yeah, I'm looking forward to the pass rush without question. I know we gave Brian Burns a lot of money, but it's the way it is. And every year the cap goes up, so it's just you're paying premiums for the most important positions. Edge rushers, left tackles, quarterbacks, even running backs. I mean, we saw guards getting $100 million contracts. So you want a good player, you're paying for him.
And the Imp Man, thank you for being here, man. He says, I missed you guys. Sorry I'm late. Thanks for being here, man. We appreciate you, buddy. Big Moose says, what's the percentage of first-round quarterbacks being successful? I heard Paul Dottino said it's about 37%.
I can see it being 1 and 3.
Well, real quick, Bad Dog. Let's look at the last 10 drafts. And I think a lot of it comes down to where they get picked in the first round, too.
Yeah.
This top 5.
I was going to say, what is considered successful?
I think what's fair to consider if we're talking an early first round pick, late first round pick is probably a different barometer. But if we're talking early first round pick, I think the guy's got to at least see a second, like a second contract, like Dak Prescott, for example. They got to see a second long-term contract.
But Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick.
No, I'm just saying, like that scenario.
So is Daniel Jones a successful first round quarterback?
I don't view that as like a long-term contract, though. I don't view that as like a franchise contract.
Okay, so a franchise deal would be
like a franchise, yeah. So I'll go back to 2010. We'll go draft by draft. I'm only gonna go top 10 picks because once you get in the late first round,
yeah,
that's a different animal. So 2010, Sam Bradford, obviously not successful. First overall pick. Injuries played a factor, but obviously wasn't successful. He was the only top 10 pick in that draft. So 0 for 1. 2011, Cam Newton, successful, won an MVP, went to
very successful Super Bowl, yes, MVP, yep.
Jake Locker, 8th pick. Blaine Gabbert, 10th pick.
No.
So 25% thus far, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to 2012.
Big Moo even said top 10 picks. So there you go.
Andrew Luck, successful.
Yes.
So we're 2 for 5. That's 40%. You've got Robert Griffin, unsuccessful, not his fault, but unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. Ryan Tannehill, unsuccessful for the team that drafted him, which is all that matters, right? He didn't make it with Miami. He didn't sign a second deal with Miami. So that's 2 out of 7.
28% right now. Yeah.
Let's see. 2013, you've got nobody. No quarterbacks were taken in the top 10 that year. That was the Eric Fisher draft. We're at 2 out of 7 right now, right?
Yeah.
Blake Bortles, we're 2 of 8 now. That's it. That's the only top 10 quarterback. 2015, Jameis Winston, we're 2 of 9. Marcus Mariota, we're 2 of 10. That's it. Those are the only top 10 picks in that draft. So far, we're at 20%.
20%.
Now, in recent years, it's going to go up. Jared Goff he went to a Super Bowl. He didn't sign a second deal with the Rams, though, but they ended up
traded him.
They won a Super Bowl by trading. I'm going to say that's successful.
Yeah.
I think
he's still playing. Detroit is a good team. He's leading them. I would say he's successful too.
3 out of 11. I don't think Carson Wentz is successful. He got off to a good start.
He started off that way, but that was he didn't last.
Yeah.
So I would say no.
That's 3 out of 12. 2017, Trubisky. That's 3 out of 13. And Mahomes, of course. So 4 out of 14 thus far in terms of top 10 picks. 2018, Mayfield, not for the team that drafted him. That's 4 out of 15. Darnold, not for the team that drafted him, not at all. 4 out of 16. Josh Allen, yes, 5 out of 17. 2019, Kyler Murray, they haven't done a lot of winning.
They haven't.
He signed a deal. Would you consider that successful?
He made the playoffs one year.
I don't know. First
That's,
overall pick.
it's tough. He's like right on the fence. I mean, it was the first.
I'm going to say that
Considering Chris that he's the first overall pick, I would say no. I know I love Kyler Murray, but I'd say no. If he was the ninth pick, I'd say yes. But because he was number 1 overall, no.
I agree. I definitely get people that would argue the other way, but I would.
I love Kyler.
Yeah. So that's 5 out of 18. Daniel Jones 5 out of 19. I think most Giant fans would tell you
he did that quick.
That's not successful. Joe Burrow successful. 6 out of 20. Tua successful. I mean, he's got great help, but successful. 7 out of 21. Herbert successful. So that was a draft where it worked out. That's 8 out of
22 right now.
2021. Trevor Lawrence, successful. Zach Wilson, no. So that's 9
out of 24. So we're right. That is 37.5% right there. 9 out of 24 so far.
Trey Lance, 9 out of 25.
Yep.
Justin Fields was the 11th pick, but he wouldn't have been successful, but he was the 11th pick. So 9 out of 25.
So 36% right
And no quarterbacks in the Kenny Pickett draft. And 2023 is yet to be. It's too early. I mean, Stroud's going to be.
So there you go, Big Moose. So 36%. That's
9 out of 25, I would say, successful. And I would say maybe 5 or 6 of those guys were very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't consider Jared Goff very successful, at least for the team that drafted him. So, yeah, about 35, 36%. And then
Jake's right. Josh Rosen went 10th one year, didn't he? Didn't the Cardinals take him 10th?
Oh, maybe I missed him.
So 9 out of 26. So it is still like 35%.
35%. And then you look at the guys that were successful. I mean, obviously, Mahomes is on another planet. Josh Allen on another planet. But a lot of those guys were put into favorable situations too. So it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would have a franchise quarterback.
Exactly.
Big Moose says I meant top 10 picks. Yeah. And Asia, stand up, Asia. Good to see you, Asia. Thank you for being here. Let's see. That was an interesting exercise to go through all the. Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds about right. And we're talking top 10. If you expand that to the full first round, it's probably more like 20%, 25%. Because Watson's a hit, for example. Like, there were guys, but it's obviously going to be less likely that the guys hit. But yeah, I'm not surprised by that number. Did you think it would be much higher than that? I didn't think it would be much higher than that.
No, it's tough.
Yeah.
And again, these quarterbacks that are drafted that early are going to crappy teams. Teams that draft in the top 10 aren't good. There's a reason you're drafting up there, because you were a bad football team. So those quarterbacks have to overcome a lot. And that transition from college to the NFL is very difficult. I say this all the time. The best college teams, the best, Michigans, Alabamas, you might be playing against 3 NFL players. 3, maybe 4, but you might be playing against 3 NFL starters at the most. When you're in the NFL, you're playing against 11 NFL starters. And the speed is way quicker, and those windows close much quicker, and it's more physical. And those defensive schemes, the blitzes are much more complex at that level. So you can have all the talent in the world. The reason Kyler Murray is not successful is because he doesn't work at it. His talent is otherworldly, but it just goes to show you, when you get to the NFL level, talent alone ain't going to win. It can win at the college level without question. But when you get to the NFL, you have to learn. Didn't they put a clause in his contract like he has to watch a certain amount of film?
Yeah, it was
because he wasn't doing it.
Yeah,
so, I mean, a lot goes into it. And that could be why some quarterbacks do fail, because they don't put the effort in off the field that it takes to succeed.
Real quick, I just want to go over the ones that were successful again that we said. I'm just curious of what situations they were in. I mean, Mahomes and Josh Allen, you don't even need to talk about. They're freaks. But, let's see. We said Goff. Goff was in a great situation with McVay, right? For the time that he was successful. And he's in a great situation now with the Detroit Lions, with their offensive line. So he was put in a great situation. 2017, I mean, we don't got to talk about Mahomes. 2018, the only one that we said successful was Allen. Rosen was a miss, so we missed on that. So I actually missed on that one. Kyler, not a good situation, but he wasn't. There's really not a lot of hits, bad dog. It's really, if you take away that one draft with the 3 hits.
Yeah, Tua, Burrow, and Herbert.
Yeah, if you take away the Burrow, Tua, Herbert draft, there's only 6 hits in the last 10 drafts.
Tough.
In the top 10 picks at the quarterback position.
It is, but you have to keep trying. Like people, like if all these quarterbacks fail, why would you take one? Because you have to.
Yeah,
You got to take one because if you find a good one, you're not trading for him. You're not going to sign him.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you love a quarterback, you always take one. It's the most important position.
Yeah.
But it's risky. There's a reason. There's a reason that they're as valuable as they are because they're tough to find. Let's see. And we're going to close this out any minute, guys. But thank you for being here. And Big Moose says, now, how many wide receivers in the top? Ooh, okay. We'll look at that real quick. Last 10 years. Now, wide receiver is obviously a position historically that you're going to be able to get a lot of value at as well. But that's most positions outside of quarterback, right? Quarterback, you're going to find more success early on, traditionally speaking. There's outliers.
Right.
All right, top 10 wide receivers. Tavon Austin, no.
Oh, God, big time failure.
0 for 1 in the 2013 draft. 2014, Sammy Watkins, I would say that's a miss. He wasn't as successful as he should have been. Mike Evans is a hit. That's
Hall
one.
of Famer. That's a hit.
Beckham was the 12th pick, so he doesn't count. So that's 1 for 3 so far. Let's see. Amari Cooper's a hit. That's 2 for 4. Kevin White's a miss. That's 2 for 5.
Fair. You know, Kevin White.
Oh, what a bust he was.
Yeah.
2016, no wide receivers taken in the top 10. So we're still at 40%. 2017, Corey Davis, he's kind of one of those middle. No, I'd say he's a miss. He's a miss. 2 for 6. Mike Williams, again, kind of in the middle.
Yeah, he's in the middle.
I would say, he's already got almost 5,000 yards receiving, and he's still young. Would you give that a hit? 7th pick, though. I don't think that's a hit.
Tough. I mean, I think if you're a receiver in the top, you got to be like.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hit. That's not a hit.
I think you can be middle of the road to be.
Yeah. So that's 2 for 7. John Ross, obvious miss. That's 2
No.
for 8. We're not doing good here. That's 20%.
No, we're not.
25%. Let's see. No wide receivers taken in the top 10 in 2018. 2019. No wide receivers taken in the top 10. There's less wide receivers taken in the top 10 than I thought. Let's see.
A lot of linemen and defensive ends and shit in the top 10.
No wide receivers taken in the top 10 in 2020. Wow. And that was the one with CeeDee Lamb when he fell. People didn't expect.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase hit. Jalen Waddle. So that's Devontae Smith hit. So all 3 of them hit. So that's 5 out of 11 now. So now we're closer to 50%.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, Drake London's, I guess you could still call him a yet.
Yeah,
He hasn't worked out thus far. All right, we'll say he's a miss, but Garrett Wilson's a hit. I think Garrett Wilson's really good on the Jets. He hasn't had a quarterback yet, but he's really good.
Right.
So 6 of 13, and then last year's too early to tell. So
it's funny though how it kind of goes in droves, right? You had that one draft class where the quarterbacks, there was a lot of them that hit. Same thing with the wide receivers. This could be a year where both wide receivers and quarterbacks hit, because normally you have standout linemen, standout defensive ends, the big positions that stand out. They really don't have those this year in the draft, which is what makes this interesting. And unless Joe Alt goes 5th, I do think the first 6 picks are going to be quarterbacks and wide receivers.
Yeah, that's
good. The first 7.
So only 13 since 2013. So we're talking 10 years. Only 13 wide receivers have even gone in the top 10. No, that's like 1 and change per draft. So I guess that's not that crazy. But I think this year 3 are going to go in the top 10.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you could see 7 quarterbacks and wide receivers go in the top 10.
Yeah, because I mean it's just the strength of this class. It's just a rare class.
That's what I mean. It's a different. Yeah.
Yeah. And Imp says, remember when they gave Jamarcus Russell the blank DVD to watch? Yeah. What a bust he ended up. My God. Biggest bust of all time, probably. Him or Ryan Leaf. But is that a true? I think I heard that, but I thought that was in a movie. That's a true story. They gave Jamarcus Russell a blank DVD?
Yeah.
That's true?
No, I don't know. I don't even remember much about Jamarcus Russell, except for he's the reason that those contracts, those guaranteed contracts, like the money went way down on the quarterbacks. The
What?
picks. Like it's why those draft picks don't get the money they used to. I know that.
Yeah. I didn't even know about that story. I knew that I think that's in draft day, right? Where they put something in like the playbook and they could see if people read it or not. But I didn't know that he actually did that. How do you draft a guy after he does that? maybe he did it after he was drafted. Let's see. Giants Goofball says, do we know the attendance at the birthday parties of each of the top quarterbacks in the What's up, man? We're gonna close this out though, guys. Appreciate all you guys. Was happy to be back on here. Yeah, I'll be going live probably at least 2 or 3 times during draft. Well, draft week's gonna be here next week. So I'll definitely go live leading up into it. Obviously, we'll be live with Baddog. We're gonna be doing Justin Pugh. So
Yes.
we're gonna be doing a show at least as of now. Hopefully everything works out. But we're gonna talk with. I'm excited to talk to Pugh because I don't know how much he's gonna give us because is he still technically a Giant?
Right, yeah.
I don't know, but he'll be an interesting guy to talk to get.
True.
We'll try to get some answers out of him.
Yeah, definitely get some insight from a guy that was in that locker room and played
talk
in
about
that
Joe
team.
Shane, Brian Dable, Evan Neal, the offensive lineman in general, Daniel Jones. So it'll be cool. It'll be cool to get this talk with Justin Pugh.
Yeah, no question.
But appreciate all you guys. Thank you guys for being here. Love all you guys, man. Thank you for being the best supporters. Baddog will be doing the Lakers streams. I'm actually going to do some Knicks playoff games. People have asked me to do that. I said with the playoffs, so I'll hang out, watch some of the games with you guys as well. And yeah, come on by and thank you guys for being here. Baddog, close it out.
Yeah, like I said, always appreciate all the support. If not for your support, we wouldn't be able to have people like Carl Banks on the show or Justin Pugh. And we always look forward to this time of year. Obviously, since Chris and I have been doing this show, that we've had one good year, which was fun. And most years we're talking about the draft by Halloween, which sucks. So when the draft is actually here, there's always a lot of excitement building up to it because normally we're picking very high. And we love doing the draft. It is a lot of fun being able to hang out with you guys for 3 days. And, hopefully, whoever you like or don't like, hopefully whatever the hell Joe Shane does like is what matters. And hopefully that's hits. I mean, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who. I don't like JJ McCarthy, but if they end up with him, I'm going to hope that JJ McCarthy is the next Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this is what I'm going to, so just hopefully whatever Joe Shane does, we can have all the speculation. We can pick our favorites and we can have our dream scenarios and all stuff. Whatever he does, hopefully that's what works. That's all I care about. I want to get back to winning football. As boring as it may be, watching the draft together when we're picking 28th or 32nd, I would love to do a draft where we're picking 32nd. That'd be well worth it. I'd rather have the season be extremely successful and not be exciting all year as opposed to the draft. But I still love the draft anyway.
Yeah. But I'm sick of having high picks, though. I'm sick of it.
I'm very interested to see exactly what we do and how it goes down draft night. So appreciate you guys being here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And
real quick, because you got me thinking. I meant to ask you this during the show. A lot of people have brought this up too. A lot of people have said the next year's draft class at the quarterback position is not good. It's not projected to be good. JJ McCarthy would be the best quarterback in next year's draft class.
Can we watch these guys play?
That's my exact take. I can't stand. Okay, you're right. Like as of today, either Shedeur Sanders or JJ McCarthy would be the best quarterback in next year's draft class.
Don't sleep on Cam Ward.
You don't know. What about the dude from Penn State? He's got potential too. There's the dude from Alabama. Like you don't know how these guys are going to
don't sleep on Cam Ward either.
Cam Ward's got a lot of talent.
Yeah, don't sleep on him. Yeah, Shedeur Sanders with another year under his belt. Yeah, McCarthy be the best right now. McCarthy's in the NFL. These guys are in college, but there's always a guy. McCarthy's a guy this year, and Daniels, right? Nobody had these guys at the beginning of the year going in the top 5. There they are. So can we at least?
No, it's not. It's not Chad Powers. It's Drew Aller or Aller.
Chad Powers is a beast.
He didn't play a whole lot last year, but from what I saw, I think he's got potential, but we'll see.
No.
But there's, I mean, you don't know. There's a lot of unknowns.
There is.
Like,
Gotta let
people
this
are making this argument. You got to take McCarthy this year because you don't know next year's class is going to suck. You don't know that. You don't force a quarterback pick. That's all.
Yeah, listen, I think Shedeur Sanders needed another year at Colorado, and we'll see what he does. I think Colorado will be better. Colorado was much better last year anyway than they've been since I can remember. And they should be better next year. They're going to get better prospects. They got Deion Sanders there. They're going to build a better team there. And listen, I picked Cam Ward to win the Heisman Trophy before to see that was my futures bet this year. I really like Cam Ward, and I would have been fine with the Giants take. I thought Cam Ward was going to come out this year, but it made sense for him not to because he might be the first quarterback pick next year, where this year he probably would have been 5th or 6th. So again, you got to see what they do next year. Maybe Cam Ward, maybe the quarterback that we don't know of rises up the ranks next year.
You saw it with Jaden Daniels this year.
You saw it with JJ McCarthy this year. There's guys that are projected to go. McCarthy was projected to be a 2nd round pick. Now he's projected to be a top 5 pick.
You saw it with Joe Burrow and
Right.
his draft. You saw it with Anthony Richardson. It happens almost every year.
Yep.
And baseball says it's a great. I agree. Like McCarthy definitely made a wise decision coming out this year, even though I don't think he's probably fully ready to play. Harbaugh left, and he's going to go to. If he goes to Minnesota, like you can't ask for a much better situation than that.
Yeah.
You're getting T.J. Hockenson, the best wide receiver in the sport, a young up and coming wide receiver, Addison. So like they got weapons all over there. So if he ends up with Minnesota, he made a great decision. But Bad Dog, we're going to close it out. Appreciate all you guys. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night, guys.
Later, guys. Peace.